currently completing the forest policy, and I've been engaged in wildlife policy. So I have a very deep understanding of the way in which law moves to become from policy to law to regulations to strategies.
Thank you, Professor. As I was doing my homework, Prof, and I'm sure you have done yours, I realized there's a Chief Justice who is a woman in Sudan, I think Ethiopia, Lesotho. So what kind of a CJ will you be as a woman CJ?
You know, when you get to the position of leadership, many times you don't go there as a woman. Maybe I should say that I was the first woman law dean. And becoming a woman law dean people would have asked. Actually, many people came to discourage me, don't run for elections. And somebody told me, if they did what they did to the male deans, what are they going to do to you? I think leadership is not gendered. But I also think that men and women bring different values to leadership. There are things that women will do better than men, because probably they have the heart of the fact that you're a woman, a mother, a nurturer. That does bring some value when you come to the table. And I would say that I don't think that as a woman, CJ, that should be problematic.
Okay. Lastly from me, Professor, there's one quality that some of the best leaders possess, and that is temperament. Mm-hmm. So I would like to know from you, Professor, what is this attribute, and and how will it help you as a leader?
You know, my temperament is calm. I can be calm under extreme temperatures, on a crucible, but calm. And that, I think, is a mien that is good for a judge, because you're going to hear many things, and you can't be expressing your facial expressions or your views just because people are throwing things at you. I would say I'm very calm. I'm not easily rattled.
Okay. Just coming back to your position as a leader and as a woman leader, have you faced the challenges and being the first dean, a lot of fasts? Have you faced the challenges either from just the public or people feeling this is a woman leader? And I'm saying that because even me, I'm one of them, Patricia and Professor, and I've come across that. Maybe you can explain to us.
I have faced some challenges. I think one of the one that comes to mind, which is comical, is going with my registrar to a meeting, and everybody was talking to him as the dean. And so I sat down and I said, dean, then go right ahead. But it was comical. So he was able to tell them this is the dean. Because I am not huge of build, many people don't believe that Patricia Kameri Mbote is the woman that presents before them, because they think that you ought to have a little padding of flesh, and also maybe a little taller, and then maybe the first perceptions. The other thing that I have faced as a woman leader is that when people come to you, they expect you to treat them in a way that is less demanding of them. So when you demand of people, they're actually rattled. When you take decisions that you need to take as a leader, there will be people, even young men, who will begin to throw mud at you, and you just have to stick with what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you lastly give us one particular instant, Professor, that you can remember where you had to do exactly what you have said?
I remember being dean and having we had what were called University of Nairobi goons. That was in 2016. I had a very, very difficult body of students who would do just whatever they wanted. And I think one time they came and established a bar behind my office, and they were playing dombolo music when I was in the office. And then they also would ask other students when they had events to give them money. And I am a mother, so I know that these are students, they are people's children. So I called them and I told them, you know, this is not right. So they stopped the dombolo music, but what they did was to call, when students were reporting, they set up a table and collected money. And again, I called them and I told them, this is the second strike. Then there was Miss Parkland's campus, which was an event for students. And as I was trying to relax on a Friday afternoon, I'm told that the students are in danger because the male student, the goons, have struck. So what happened was that they continued like that. I would report, I had reports of them. Then the elections were held, and the elections were shambolic. The students were very, very unruly. So I knew that these young men were engaged. And so what I did was, through the processes, I wondered, were they going to be netted? And when they presented the list in Senate of who the students were, these students were not there. And so I actually told my boss, it is either these students are there or I am not the dean. Because you see, that also denies you the authority if people can get away with whatever they do. They went through disciplinary proceedings, and I must say I was sad myself at that process, because these were fourth-year students in the last 2 weeks. And I had not actually realized that if you put the university in an odious position, the only remedy, or the only thing that can be done to you is expulsion. And the students were expelled. So I actually later came back and have actually worked a lot with the university administrators trying to get these students back. And I do hope that they learned their lesson. It was a very painful lesson for me as a mother. When mothers come and lie on the seat in your office waiting for you to deal with them, and then you realize that these are very poor students, some of them. So that was one of the difficult things that I had to do.
Okay. So, Prof, just tell the Commission one or two things you have done, innovative things that have brought impact and which can be attributed to you as a leader because of your leadership excellence. And I know maybe you have talked about some of them, but just point out one or two that you feel, if it were not for my leadership as Professor Bote, this would not have happened.
Okay, I'll give you two. One is the establishment of Strathmore Law School. And let me say that for me, establishing Strathmore Law School was a way of getting the giant in Nairobi to move, because I had been a leader there as chair of department, and I had vied for dean and not succeeded. And so when I was restless, and when the opportunity came for me to go and start a new law school, I felt like they had given me a blank sheet. Of course, I worked with very many people, but Strathmore gave me so much room and so much latitude that enabled me to start a school that I think is excellent. And the spin-off is that my school, my alma mater, University of Nairobi, woke up because they realized that now there was competition in town. It was no longer enough to say we are old and we are gold. The new ones can actually, they can actually threaten your continuation. The second one I'll give is from this COVID-19 situation. In conjunction with the African Development Bank and colleagues at the school, we were tasked to train Kenyan and Ugandan lawyers on integrating environmental issues in oil and gas contracts. And we talked, in fact, the officials from the African Development Bank even came to visit us at the university. We were going to have it at the university towers. The students were, the lawyers were going to stay at the Norfolk. And we had the last meeting at the end of February. Then COVID struck. When COVID struck, I had three options as the leader. One was to call off the training and then say, we will do it another time. The second one was to wait out COVID, because now there were the travel bans. But I took the third one, which was to innovate. And I spoke to my younger colleagues, and we agreed that we were going to have training for Ugandan and Kenyan lawyers virtually. And so what we did was to get another group of young Kenyans. Kenyans, we have extremely talented Kenyans. I just told them this is what we want, a bespoke training platform, which would be used simultaneously in Uganda and in Kenya, and also would be accessible to the bank officials in Abidjan. And they did that, and we were able in June last year to host a 4-week program. What we had to do, of course, is to reduce the number of participants, because when you go virtual, then to engage people one-on-one, you need to have less students. And it went very well. Everything was done virtually. Even the certification was done using the bespoke system we had developed.
Thank you very much. I'll now request the acting CJ to ask you further questions.
Thank you. Professor Senior Counsel, you come into an institution that has been doing something called transformation, more specifically since 2011. Okay. Please explain to us what prepares you for that transformation, whether you know what it is we want to transform ourselves from to, and what tools you would use in that transformation, or has that transformation in fact done time, and should we now go to something else? That will be my first question.
Thank you very much. It is interesting because I was in the first team who worked on the judiciary transformation framework. And you know, we were coming from the previous constitutional dispensation, where there were very, very many problems in the judiciary. I must say that I have followed what happened with the judiciary transformation framework. I've also followed what you lead, which is the sustaining judicial transformation. And I can see a lot of steps have been made. I think we were talking then about a lot of backlog. We were talking about an under-resourced institution. We were talking about not integrating ICT across different spaces. I think, if I remember right, there was also discussions about accountability, the whole question of performance management, because this had become part of the public service with the NAC government in 2003. And I think for the judiciary, this remained something that was being talked about. And I would say that a lot has been done. A lot has happened since then. You know, even this Judicial Service Commission was not this kind of Judicial Service Commission. It was a different kind. And so a lot of things have happened. So you've asked me whether the transformation has done its time. And maybe I'm going to be a little controversial. I will say you can't be transforming for 10 years. it is too long. I think you have to stop and ask yourself, what have we done and what haven't we done? And in coming to this space, I come looking at what has been done, but looking also, asking ourselves, how are we doing? Because if you don't look at where you're coming from, you could actually go back there without knowing. My analogy, again, as a mother, is of a child who is 10. This is a judiciary under the 2010 Constitution. It is 10 years. A 10-year-old child is heading to adolescence. Adolescence can be very turbulent years, and those are the years that determine whether the child becomes a well-adjusted teenager or a maladjusted teenager. And it would be good to take stock and to begin to look at what changes have worked. How do we make that change stick?
Let us, Professor Senior Counsel, redirect our mind to this aspect, okay? We've been doing this for that period. Do you know the successes we have made? Professor Senior Counsel, I just heard you say that our initial problems were backlog, under-resourced. Those were your words?
Yeah.
And of course, accountability. I have no issues with accountability. I would like you, with your own statement, to tell us whether then we actually need to move to the next level. And for you to fully answer that concern, do you know what our management culture has been? And do you know what it has contributed to being where we are at today?
I would be lying if I said I know exactly your management culture, because if you're not wearing the shoes, it is difficult to know how the culture works. I can only talk about it as an outsider and as a person who's been observing what has been happening. I think a lot of, I hope I didn't come out as saying that transformation didn't achieve anything, because the performance management and measurement understandings have actually movement towards some of the things that needed to be dealt with, but also the whole issue of active case management using the daily court returns. That has also helped, because you know, when a judge or judicial officer is now asked to account for how they've been using their time. I only know the judiciary before 2010 because I did very incisive research on it. This one I have interacted with, but a lot at a distance. And you see, when I would go to, I served for 3 years as the rapporteur of the Judicial Colloquia, and I have not served since 2011. So I really do not have that inning on what has happened.
Thank you. There is such a thing as looking into the inside from the outside. And since you are involved in JTF, and we have said one or two things about SJT, I would like you to address this concern. The PMMUs, the performance contracting that we do here, we don't call it contracting. I want you to tell us what it is we do there. Is that an achievement? Has it actually changed anything? Has it interfered with the judicial independence of judicial officers? Is it a matter that goes to accountability? And as you answer that, Professor Senior Counsel, I want you to relate it to a statement you made earlier and said, when you failed in your attempt to be dean you became restless and therefore went to Strathmore, and now you're back at UON. Could you relate that to transformation? Then we will move from that topic.
I understand the question to be how the steps that have been taken in the judiciary have impacted on the working on the judiciary. And I think you're taking this from the core of what the judiciary is about, the fact that you need to have an independent judiciary. And therefore, even as we talk about the performance management and measurement understandings, it is important to still bear in mind the importance of judicial independence, both for individual judges, but also for the institution. And I think the fact that there are different levels that have been established, especially under the acts that were passed after 2010, and also under the SJT and JTF, there are different levels of accountability. And I would say that these things go to the heart of independence. You can't look at independence without looking at accountability. And I think for the judiciary, because it is a counter-majoritarian institution, the judges are not voted for, which is important for the judiciary to actually show how accountable it is to the Kenyan. Why should Kenyans invest in the judiciary? And I think the way that is demonstrated is through what we put in place for accountability. And that can be internal or external, and PMMUs and other mechanisms are the internal ones. But there is also something I shouldn't fail to talk about, the code of conduct. Because you see, with a code of conduct that judges are aware of, then you know what are the permissible and not permissible actions.
As we leave that topic, Senior Counsel Professor, would you like to say something about your being restless?
I was young and restless then. I was in my 40s. I am now headed to 60. You know, there is something that comes with growing old, that you begin to see what it is that you need to do. If I was to make the decision of starting a new law school, I would do the same. And actually, even in leaving, though I said I was restless, I was within my rights to leave. You can take unpaid leave from the university and go and do something. What I did was unusual. Starting competition was not usual. So, Chief Justice, I have become a lot more less restless.
I hear you. In fact, the reason I ask is because of the step you took next, which was to be very successful at starting the law school at Strathmore, waking up the giant that was the UN law school, and then going back to the UN. Why?
Why did I go back?
Yes. You have gotten to Strathmore. You're successful at Strathmore. Why then go back? And how did you go back?
You know, I live by two mantras. One is Franz Kafka's mantra that paths are made by walking. So there doesn't have to be a road for me to take it. And when I went to Strathmore, I talked a lot to my younger colleagues, and I was telling them, you know, build the field, the players will come. But I also live by another mantra, which is by Woodrow Wilson, that we are not here merely to make money. We are here to make a difference. And when I started Strathmore is a small school. And I felt that there was a lot more that I could do at the University of Nairobi. Also, because it was a private school, the kind of students I'd meet there are not like the kind of students that I had met at the University of Nairobi, who are actually from all corners of the world. You know, people who came to Nairobi for the first time. And so to make a difference, I thought that going back to the University of Nairobi was it. But I still mentor Stanford scholars. When they call on me, I go to them. And it's not just Stanford, Strathmore. It's also other schools.
All right. Thank you, Professor, Senior Counsel. Let's go to my next assigned area of discussion. Senior Counsel, when you come here, you become the president of the Supreme Court. We'll discuss that a little later. For now, I want us to discuss the chair of the Judicial Service Commission. What do you see as your roles there, and what would be the first thing you would fix once you get to the chair, Judicial Service Commission?
As chair of Judicial Service Commission, I think there is something that I have noted as both as a scholar and also as a Kenyan. And I think this is the fact that the Judicial Service Commission is very underfunded, and they are responsible for judicial training. As looking at the budget, and I think it is the total budget, if I'm not wrong, is $500 million. But the needs of training are a lot. I would actually bring in training, and I know that we are operating in a very constrained resource space. But as a Chief Justice and the Chair of the Judicial Service Commission, I would leverage networks. Like, you know, I'm coming from a school, so my colleagues should be able to teach judicial officers, those who don't go to court, without pay. And I also have networks around the world. I would be able to leverage those to bring up the teaching.
What is the common date of the Judicial Service Commission?
They are the employer of the judicial officers. That's what I think they are.
All right. And then your leadership, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, okay? And you have all these many stakeholders. I want us to deal with the internal stakeholders. What do you do there, and how do you ensure that you are successful?
You know, if you get into an institution and you're not accepted by the stakeholders, then you're going to not succeed. And I think even though I would have my ideas about what I bring into the judiciary, I would actually want to understand the culture that is in the judiciary. And one of the things I would actually do, I would like to work with a serving judicial officer, I say my chief of staff, because they will guide me through the hoops. Because if you get an outsider and you're an outsider, you really don't know what's happening within the institution. I've found out as a leader, there is nothing like knowing the pulse of your organization. And I would aspire to know the pulse of my organization.
So you would go for a chief of staff that was internal. I hear that. Let's go to the next role of the CJ. Now, that Chief Justice is of necessity the chair of NCAJ. Kenya law is the link between the judiciary, he, she, we know what he means in the Constitution, is the link between the judiciary and the other two arms of government, amongst many other roles. I'm leaving the role of Chief Justice as President because I want us to discuss that at a bit of length. So please tell us what prepares you for the balancing act that of necessity is required to be a successful Chief Justice, to be a successful Chair JSC, successful Chair NCAJ, Kenya Law, and the link between ourselves, the other arms of government, and the world at large. With that answer, we shall then go to something else.
Okay. What prepares me to serve as chair, I think I did say that I have served as chair of many boards, Water Services Regulatory Board, Kenya School of Law. And I was actually also a member of the National Council for Law Reporting as Dean of the School of Law, University of Nairobi. And so I could see and I observed the way in which law reporting is actually such a critical aspect of the judiciary that the Chief Justice was able to guide what is happening. So in essence, the chairing, I have experience doing that. I think as Chief Justice, being Dean, I was also the intellectual and administrative head of my institution. And you see, if you're a dean of very senior professors and you don't command the respect through the work that you do, then you see they won't respect you. And then when it came to administration, I needed to be the person between the school and the main university, because we are only a small unit. There is a college, and then there is the main administration. So I would say that I developed ways of navigating those relationships. With the executive and other arms of government, I have worked with different arms of government, and of course not as Chief Justice. And I think diplomacy and negotiation are ways in which one could actually work with these institutions. I don't know whether I'm answering your question, but Chief Justice, because you are my senior in school, if there is anything I don't know and you're here, I will learn from you.
Thank you, Professor Senior Counsel. And now you are Senior Counsel, I am not. Let's go to the other area that is my leading area. Please tell us the principal in Mulberry and Madison, and tell us how it impacted, if at all it did, the 2010 Constitution, what it does to constitutional democracy, what it does to the judiciary when it relates to other state organs, and please cite, if you may, any recent cases that derive from that principle.
Thank you very much. It's a long time since I read Marbury versus Madison, so I would say that I haven't interacted with the ratio decidendi, okay. But in terms of constitutional democracy, I remember vaguely about the separation of powers. And in essence, what the 2010 Constitution did was to make the judiciary a lot more independent. I think in previous constitutional dispensations, the judiciary was subservient. It was almost subservient to, especially the executive, if you look at the way in which judicial staff were hired. So I would say that it has helped clarify the relationships. In terms, the case that comes to my mind is actually a case that is alive in court, that I would not want to talk about.
No,
here.
you wouldn't. You would not do that, at least not rightly. I was talking about already decided cases, but let's leave that for a minute and deal with the scope of judicial review. Do you want to say anything about the scope?
Yes, I'd like to say something. I think judicial review before was really based on common law, and I think the Article 47 constitutional provision on fair administrative action has first of all constitutionalized judicial review, but also expanded the scope because fair administrative action is required of not just state organs but also non-state organs.
Please listen to this. This one I've written out because I want us to help the Commission to arrive at the right decision, and two, to help the court that you are coming to be president of. Okay? Some have indicted the Supreme Court, and particularly its position on the interpretation of the Constitution. There's been quite a bit of indictment out there. For you to answer that question, please tell us what the stated objectives in regard to constitutional interpretation there are for the Supreme Court, and how you think that, what techniques you think ought to be applied, and has this current Supreme Court done that, ought to be applied, or what you would yourself require of the rest of the 6 of us to apply to coherently achieve the objectives of the court as regards interpretation and to serve the people of Kenya who pay our salaries.
Okay. The Supreme Court, you say, has been indicted. I think the indictment sometimes is unfair because this is a young court. And as a new court, as you get things put in place, there are different things that need to be refined over time. I think if you look at, there are things that the Supreme Court has guided and guided well. If you look at the advisory opinion in the National Land Commission, it actually quelled the differences between the Ministry of Lands and the National Land Commission because they were in the papers every day. And I think also, to give a second example, when you look at the digital migration, you know they forced the action of digital migration. So I think in that way they have moved us ahead. So in terms of exercising jurisdiction as a court and what principles guide, I think Article 259 of the Constitution talks about interpreting the Constitution with the values, the principles that are in the Constitution to ensure respect for human rights, respect for fundamental rights, good governance. And I also like the statement that the Constitution is always speaking. So when you are a Supreme Court judge and the Constitution is always speaking, then it means that you have a very big responsibility to ensure that how it speaks is going to guide and move jurisprudence forward. Yeah, jurisprudence forward. I think this whole issue of whether the Supreme Court, what kinds of techniques it can use, it has begun to use them. You know, when it decides what is a matter of public interest that should be admitted into the court. Granted, there may have been opening up of issues that should not have been opened up, but when you look, all the time you are talking about good faith, that they acted in good faith. So it is not, if anything happened, they were seeking to abide by the principle that you must avail justice.
All right. Thank you, Professor. Let's go to, so as to finish on that topic, we are required by the Supreme Court and the judiciary at large is required by our current strategic plan and by, to a great extent, the Constitution itself, to develop something called indigenous jurisprudence. Please tell us what that.
Je, umeomoka? Kama hujaomoka kwenye Quickly ndio mambo yote. Hapa tuko na fridge, kodi yake ni CM. Tuko na gas cooker, kodi yake ni CK. Tuko na TV, kodi yake ni TV. Tuko na simu aina ya Samsung ni SM, ama Oppo ni Oppo. My friend, mahali popote unanitizama, eka hizo kodi zake kisha utume kwa 4032353. 4032353. Alafu utakuwa unaomoka na hizi bidhaa. Kumbuka, kwenye Quickly ni bila bora zaidi kwa bei ya chini kwa chini.
Honorable Speaker, it is my pleasure and privilege to introduce to you and the Senate the Senator-elect for Garissa County, Abdul Qadir Mohammed of the Jubilee Party.
I, Haji Abdul Qadir Mohammed, having been elected a member of the Senate, do swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya, and I will obey, respect, uphold, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, and that I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of a Member of Parliament. So help me God.
You may now take your seats, including the new senator. Next order. Okay, I can see there's interest, and as our tradition, no senators would like to congratulate the senator, the new senator in the chamber, Senator Haniri George.
Mr. Speaker, are you giving me an opportunity to raise my point of order or to contribute?
I saw you have logged in, so...
Yes. Mr. Speaker, yes, indeed. I was just going to bring it to your attention that it has now become our tradition that when we swear in a new senator on following a by-election, you allow members to welcome the new member. And thank you for giving me the first opportunity, Mr. Speaker. Allow me, on my own behalf, and on behalf of the people of Vihiga County who I represent here, to congratulate and welcome the newly sworn-in Senator for Garissa, Haji Abdul Qadir Mohammed. Mr. Speaker, the election of Mr. Haji and Opos is a clear demonstration that the people of Garissa have confidence in him. I want to tell Mr. Haji that I came to Parliament many years ago under the similar circumstances after losing my father. And when we were eulogizing your late father, Mr. Haji, I reminded the nation that my father, my own father, who was the Member of Parliament for Hamisi, died in PC Haji's hands. They were in a function where my father collapsed, and it is the PC Haji who was rushing him to hospital in Aga Khan, Kisumu, and he died in his hands in his Land Rover. That is the relationship I had with your father. And I called him dad, he called me son. We cultivated a very good relationship because immediately after my father died in 1996, he led the campaign then as a PC for my election in that by-election in 1996. I have been here ever since. I know you are fitting you are stepping in very huge shoes, but have the confidence that you will fit in those shoes. You will do as your father did. He was a respected man in this house and in the Republic. You must uphold those standards. So mine is just to wish you well and welcome you here and tell you that we are here to guide you. Always feel free to consult some of us who have been here long and have that experience, and I'm sure that you will succeed in your duties as the Senator for Garissa. I wish you well, my brother. Welcome to Senate.
Senator Kimani Wamatangi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I take the opportunity also on my behalf, on behalf of the people of Kiambu County, members of the Jubilee Party, to congratulate and welcome the newly elected Senator for Garissa, Senator Haji. Mr. Speaker, Senator Haji is a young man, energetic, Mr. Speaker, and one who has won the confidence of the people of Garissa, and indeed the country. Senator Haji has come into this chamber with a track record, Mr. Speaker, because though he was just newly elected, he is not new or a stranger to the minds and conscience of the people of this republic for heroic acts he has undertaken, Mr. Speaker, even earlier. And without necessarily greatly underscoring the size of the shoes of the man whom he seeks to fit in, Mr. Speaker, I trust and I believe that he not only has the capacity, he's got also the goodwill of the people of Garissa, he's got the goodwill of the members of this House as senators to encourage him, to support him, Mr. Speaker, to be as successful as his father was, and indeed more successful up to the extent of his own ambitions. It was not a forced, Mr. Speaker, a position that he took. It was voluntary. He chose, Mr. Speaker, to follow the ambitions that his late father had followed. It must be a fire that burns in his belly that he has chosen, Mr. Speaker, to carry on that mantle. I want to encourage Senator Haji, welcome him to this House, Mr. Speaker. Tell him that indeed this House will be well better off and will use the good mind that he's got, the energy that he has, Mr. Speaker, to make debate in this House better. Mr. Speaker, on the side of Jubilee, Mr. Speaker, we are glad, Mr. Speaker, that the people of Garissa also have shown that they still have confidence, that the government of the day, Mr. Speaker, that the party that has nominated Senator Haji, Mr. Speaker, to this House, that, Mr. Speaker, that we still have work to do for the people of Kenya. And the people of this republic also have confidence that the more better, newer, energetic minds we get, that we can deliver on the agenda of this country. And that agenda, Mr. Speaker, remains unchanged. It is to transform the lives of these people, of our people, Mr. Speaker, and make them better. So as I welcome Senator Haji, I want to urge him, take it in your stride, hit the ground running. We are here with you, we'll support you, and we're happy that we are here. This House will be a better House, Mr. Speaker, with the involvement of Senator Haji. Welcome, Senator, and congratulations.
Senator James Orengo, Leader of Minority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I'm extremely humbled by the fact that I was nominated by the Senator-elect and his family to introduce him to you, Mr. Speaker, and the Senate. And a lot of members here may not know, probably Senator Fatuma Dulo would know better. My relationship with the father of Senator Haji Mohammed was deep and over a long period of time. There were many times that I would be in a position of difficulties and I ran to him for consultations and even for advice. And that went for many years, even before he came to Parliament, when he was still in the provincial administration. And therefore, I want to use the platform of this house, this chamber, to again express my condolences, continued expression of condolences to the family for the loss of Senator Haji Senior, whom we condole in a very historic manner by having a special motion which was moved and passed by the Senate. And I hope I can continue to have those relationship with the family and particularly with the new senator. Mr. Speaker, in many countries, heroes do get elected in recognition of what they have done for their nation and for their country. And I think this is one occasion when we can say that this election was not a Garissa affair. This is an election that was appreciated by the entire country, and no political party in this republic offered a candidate against Senator Haji Mohammed. And this is a recognition that when we follow our better instincts, we can do great things in recognition of a young man who is now one of us, who at a very, very critical time when this nation was the victim of a terrorist attack, he went beyond call of duty to save Kenyans and to save lives on that very tragic day. And I would say that this is not something that happens only in this country. You know, like in the United States of America, war heroes like Eisenhower rose to very high ranking and the most senior position in government. Astronauts who have been elected to the Senate in the United States. And here, I also must say that there have been senators and members of the National Assembly who have been elected because of their good deeds. And I hope that it is of significance that both the minority and the majority participated in introducing Senator Haji Abdul Qadir Mohammed to you, Mr. Speaker, and the Senate. And I am hoping that as we go through this very difficult time in our nation, that is at moments like this, when we have amongst us a leader who has been elected unanimously, and I want to repeat that, unanimously, so that he is not just a senator for Garissa County. I want to encourage you, Senator Haji, that you represent the whole of Kenya in this august house. Just like on that day at Westgate, you went there to protect every life, irrespective of tribe, race, or status. All the lives of the people you are defending matter to you. You do not choose whom to defend or to protect. And the image of you ushering that young little child, I think, will be in our memories for a very, very long time. And as we look ahead, I hope you'll be part of the solution in bringing this country to order, so that the best things that should come out of this great nation should come from us as legislators, and more particularly from you as a young man who has this distinguished position of a senator and filling the shoes, those very big shoes of your late father, and I know you are going to be up to the task. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Senator Abshiro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to join you and the rest of my colleagues in welcoming my brother Abdul Qadir Haji to the Senate, and to congratulate him on his unopposed election to the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, As I stand here, I am proud, but also a bit emotional in the fact that our father sat exactly where you sat, Senator, and today you sit on his seat unopposed. But as Senator Orengo has said, your election is not just for Garissa County, it's for the entire country. As we know, our father, Senator Yusuf Haji, gave you great values. The leadership of the Republic of Kenya is challenging, but with your values, which are solid, and with your conviction and your commitment to service, as we saw in Westgate, I'm sure you will really fly and take the people of Garissa and this country to the next level. I'm proud to be serving with you. As I came to this Senate, I asked God for a good challenge, but also for good people to work with. I have no doubt in my mind you're one of the best and finest people to work with. I look forward to working with you. I'm proud of the person that you are. When Westgate happened, I was working for the Red Cross. I wasn't in the inside, but I was outside in the medical tent. I didn't watch you on television. I watched you live as you rescued a young girl and walked out with her, as you went back in, and I kept holding my breath and wondering, will he come back out? These are some of the things they say. A great person, and the best value to have is courage, and you have it. Please be courageous, even in this house, because there's a lot of times that your courage will be called to bear. There's a lot of times that despite many challenges, your convictions will have to bear. And I know you have what it takes. I know this Senate is a better place for your being here. And I know this country will be well served by yourself. Public service is an honor and a privilege that you're familiar with, because you watched your father serve this republic and you did it yourself. So I know for a fact that we as this country are better off that you're making laws that are going to outlive many of us. If there's a place to make consequential change, it is a House of Parliament. I didn't know that, and I know it now. And I know it's a promotion by many folds from where you are. And it's something that's going to give you a chance to give this country the change it requires. I wish you all the best. I look forward to working with you. You can count on me, and you can count on everybody here, I am sure, because the goodwill is here. Welcome to the Senate, and thank you for the service you've offered this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I can see a lot of interest, and because we have a very huge agenda before us, I'm going to allow only 2 minutes for those who will speak from now. Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
I don't know why, Speaker, you issued that directive while looking at me, but it's okay. Welcome to the Senate, Senator Abdulkadir Haji. You joined the list of senators or members of parliament, including myself, who have come here by fate, including Senator Haneri, Senator of Homa Bay, Senator Kajwang, who is not here. You are a hero. You are a senator now. You are not a young man anymore. You have to fit in the shoes. These are the statements they used to tell me. When my father passed on, Mheshimiwa Raila, Right Honorable Raila, said, "The king is dead, long live the king." I will repeat the same statements to you. I didn't understand them then, now I do. Welcome to the Senate. You have actually come on the right day. I was just inquiring from the clerk whether you will vote today, and I'm glad that you are going to vote today on a matter in which your own father defied every odd during the debate on the revenue sharing formula. During that time, at the heat of the pandemic, and despite every request for your father not to come to this chamber, he was here. And he sat here patiently waiting for that debate so that Garissa County does not lose a shilling. And today, it is historic because you are going to vote for what your father did. And I am so glad that you are here. Part of us who were defending and opposed a formula that would have denied so many counties revenue are glad that it has come to pass, that today that division of revenue is coming today. It's not a coincidence also that sometime next week we are going to discuss as something that your father was doing until his last breath, the BBI debate. You're going to also be here to vote about an issue that your father did so passionately. So welcome to the Senate. There are so many people here who will guide you, so many legislators, people who loved your father, who will guide you on how to be a good senator, how to debate. Don't feel sorry for yourself. It's fate. And therefore, we welcome you to the Senate. We welcome you here, and we hope we can be of assistance to you and people of Garissa. And I hope the dispute between Garissa and Isiolo, I want to see you at the forefront with Senator Dulo. Create peace, because your father loved peace. In the middle of every crisis, your father said, let's have peace first. And therefore, we want to see you towering like your father did. We want to tell the people of Garissa, as we also pass our greetings of Ramadan Kareem, you have saved this country resources by not having a contentious election. And I must say so. Whatever form of democracy Garissa has adopted, may this country in 2022 have a peaceful election, where we don't quarrel about leadership, because that's what your father stood for, a peaceful country. Thank you, Speaker.
Senator Blai, Victoria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Abdulkadir Mohammed Haji, Senator, welcome to the Senate. As your elder, as one of the elders from Northeastern, I welcome you with open arms. As a person who knows how things happen, as Senator Mutula said, sometimes people disagree with our way of doing things, but our way of doing things has resulted in this beautiful, electionless, fightless, and we brought our senator from Garissa here without any problems. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to tell Mr. Haji that people know a lot of things here. Everybody has their way of doing things. Your way of doing things, as a nationalist, as a Kenyan, that's okay, it's allowed. But East and West, they say home is the best. The people of Garissa brought you here without any argument, without anybody disagreeing with anything. Even those ones who had ambitions were told, no, this is not the right time. Why? Because of what happened. And with that, my advice to you is, please hold the people of Garissa with both arms. Hug them, hold them the way they brought you, and that is the way you will proceed, that is the way you will succeed, and that is what will help you in your political life. That said, I want to thank all Kenyans and all parties for making sure that there was no contestation, that all parties supported him unopposed, whether it's Jubilee or whether the Jubilee division did not affect him, whether it was Kieleweke or Tangatanga, they all supported him, whether it was the NASA or others, they supported him. And now, as Senator Orengo said, you are senator for Kenya, you are senator for Garissa, you are senator for all of us here. Welcome as the newest senator. Just recently we had another by-election. I hope and pray that our old man is in Jannatul Firdausa, and we welcome you to the Senate. Karibu sana.
Senator Lokorio Petronil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would also like to join my colleagues in passing my message of congratulations to Senator Haji Abdulkadir Mohammed for being elected and opposed to represent Garissa County in the Senate, but also to emphasize to you that you're not just a senator for Garissa. Your demeanor alone, just like your father, puts you into the leadership for all Kenyans. So I look forward to working with you, and as you have been told, we look we will support you in every way. We were also new in this Senate. We have learned the ropes. We have made mistakes along the way, and I think we are not where we were when we came in. So do not be afraid to make any mistakes. This microphone can be intimidating, knowing that the world is watching you, but with practice, and I'm sure the speakers on the chair will continue to give you chances so that you practice and become the leader that we expect you to be. You're already a fighter for social justice, like many of us are, and we know that you'll step into those shoes, fight for justice in this country where you see something is wrong and correct, and remember that you represent the people, especially the downtrodden. That is why we are here. We are not members of the executive, we are members of the legislature, elected by the people. I also want to thank the people of Garissa for helping us avoid a by-election that would have put us in another bad mood for this country, for going through what I call guided democracy. And not only thank Garissa, but for the whole of Northeastern that takes this method of putting leaders into place. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and welcome Senator Haji.
Senator Kipchumba Murkomen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate Senator Haji. When I came in, Mr. Speaker, I thought, I have always assumed he's a very young man, so I wanted to, I was joking with him, and I realized he was a little bit older than myself, even though he looks 25, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we are privileged as a Senate to have Senator Haji come here, a man who has already established his legacy out there in the Republic, and Mr. Speaker, a person of integrity and a person of great knowledge, well mentored, Mr. Speaker, by Senior Haji. I want to speak like many of us have said, to say that we really admired your father. He was a great friend of mine and great friend of almost everybody in this house. I don't know any one person who had an issue with your father. He was a father figure to all of us. He did a fantastic job as the chair of Security Committee, but also as just a senator who was willing to go out of his way to advise us. One of the memorable moments for me with him was shortly before he fell sick, in the team that we were together in what we call Team Kenya. And we used to meet at Senator Mutula Kilonzo's office, because when he got tired, he would go and rest in Senator Mutula Kilonzo's office. And I had a profound conversation with your father. Particularly, I asked him, what is he going to do in this division of revenue debate, where the request of the president is against his values and principles? And he had no doubt in his mind. He stood firm and said, he told me that I am loyal first to the people of Garissa. And I want to tell you this, that it is possible for Kenya, for you to think and represent the people of Garissa and still be national. Just that it was possible for some of us who were supposedly gaining at that moment in the formula that was presented, who thought that it was possible to defend Kenya and still benefit Elgeyo Marakwet County. And I want to tell you that although many people are saying you need to fit into the shoes of your father, it is also possible for you to establish your own shoes, establish your own legacy, learning from the mistakes of your father, but also emulating the many positive attributes that he had, so that then you can establish yourself as a leader at your own right. You only have 16 months before you face another elections. In fact, I do not agree with those who think that you came here not because people sat down and agreed that it's only this one. It's because you could not find a challenger. Otherwise, if you had a challenger, I still believe you'll still win, because it's good to have a competition. I doubt if you will come here and oppose next year. What that means is that you have an opportunity now to establish yourself for the shortest period of time, leave a lasting legacy. Thankfully, you will not be the only one. Senator Cheriot came around the same time last term, and a few more senators who have served here less than 15 months and were re-elected. And I believe that in these 15 months, you will leave a lasting legacy that will ensure that me and you will come back here in the next term, and perhaps you will be able to play even a bigger role when we will be in the next Senate. The last thing I would like to say is that on matters BBI, there are things your father was concerned about what is inside the BBI report. I want you to have a conversation with a few of us, Senator Hali from Wajir, Senator Mutola Kilonzo Jr., and participate in shaping the BBI report that is coming before we can be told to pass in a manner that is going to benefit all Kenyans and protect all Kenyans, and primarily the people of Garissa and the people of marginalized counties. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to congratulate again Senator Haji and tell him, welcome, we'll work together. On behalf of all hustlers and the Hustler Nation, you're welcome to Senate. Thank you very much.
Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's gallery. This morning, a visiting delegation from Garissa County. I request each member of the delegation to stand when called out so that you may be acknowledged in the Senate tradition. There is His Excellency Abdi Dagane Mohammed, Deputy Governor, His Excellency Natif Jama, former Governor, thank you, Honorable Sophia Abdi Nur, MP Jara, Honorable Aden Bare Duale, MP Garissa Township, Honorable Abdul Karim Osman, MP Fafi, Major General Retired Bashir Yusuf, Anas Ibrahim, Mohammed Osman, Fami Ismail Shaiya, Harun Muhammad Yusuf, Bashir Ismail Buru, Amina Mohammed Haji, Zahra Mohammed Haji, Isa Ibrahim Mahat, Abdul Nasir Ali Bari, Abdul Khalif Haji, Mohammed Hassan Ahmed, Mohammed Rashid Ahmed, Ahmed Aidin, Mohammed Bagdal, Mohammed Nurdin, Abdulhaq Nurdin, and finally, Gumato Okuru Yatani. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I welcome the delegation to the Senate and wish them well for the remainder of the visit. Thank you. Senator Wambua.
What was that about? Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity to join you and my colleagues in congratulating the Senator for Garissa, Senator Abdul Haji. The Speaker, Abdul Haji is probably my age mate. My first encounter with Abdul Haji was in 2013 at the Westgate saga. That week, Mr. Speaker, I had just left the Nation Media Group and joined the Standard Media Group, where I was appointed the managing editor for the Sunday Standard. And that weekend, my first story was the story of the Westgate. And that's when I encountered the heroic actions of Abdul. And I want to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to tell Senator Haji to feel most welcome in the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. A lot of people have made reference to what your father did. I will give you a completely different piece of advice, my brother, my neighbor. Just be Senator Abdul Haji. Do not try to be Senator Yusuf Haji. Because when you try to do that, I can tell you for sure, it may be very, very difficult for you to fit in those shoes that we're making reference to. It may not be very easy for you to deliver services to the people of Garissa within the remaining time of 16, 17 months. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, Senator Abdul if he chooses to travel to Garissa by road, he will pass by Kitui County and cover a distance of not less than 130 kilometers. Garissa and Kitui, we are good neighbors. I want to urge my colleague now, Senator Abdul, that we continue to cultivate the good relationship that the people from my community and the original residents of Garissa have, to make sure that they coexist peacefully and harmoniously and continue to do business together. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the two issues that Senator Abdul will be called upon to vote on the matter of the division of revenue, you have an opportunity to actualize a decision, a very, very firm decision that your father took, alongside those of us who belong to Team Kenya, a group of senators who believe that this country is bigger than any individual county. And so you will have that opportunity. And then lastly, you will have the opportunity to then vote on the BBI report. I will tell you, without blinking an eye, a very, very controversial report. And when we get there, then the people of Garissa will be looking up to you to see what decisions you're going to make, because this is about them before it is about this country. It is about my people in Kitui. It's about the people of Isiolo. It's about the people in each county before it is about the people of this country. So, the Speaker, I invite Senator Abdul to the Senate and congratulate him and thank the delegation from Garissa for accompanying their son, their leader, to the swearing in. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We shall have Senator Kavindu Mudhama by virtue.
Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity that you have given me and the people of Machakos whom elected me to represent them in the Senate, for giving me this opportunity to welcome Mr. Haji Abdul that I was really looking forward to meeting you and also working with you, as I've worked with your father in BBI, in the steering committee being our chairman, and even in the steering committee being our chairman. And he's such a jovial man. He's such a man of people that even when moods were not very good, he made a joke that everybody laughed and we went back into working. So I'm looking forward to working with you. You are not the only new one there. I also joined the other day. And so we are going to learn together and we are going to deliver to our people. Congratulate and welcome Mr. Haji. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator Dulo.
God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to join you in congratulating Senator Haji to the Senate. Secondly, I must say that I'm really delighted and very grateful to this final conclusion of swearing in of Senator Haji. Why I'm saying this, Mr. Speaker, is because I have served with Senator Haji in the last Senate as his vice chair in security. Number two, I've worked with him in Committee of National Security. He used to sit where Majority Leader is currently sitting. Senator Yusuf Haji, before he passed on, he introduced me to his family as one of his family member, and I'm really grateful for that. Number two, when we are doing a nomination for who should escort Senator Haji in the chamber, the mother said, it must be you and Senator Orengo. I'm really grateful for that, and I'm really blessed as a result of that. Mr. Speaker, we started this journey of Abdul taking over the seat of the father. First, we had a sitting with the family, and I must appreciate the family led by General Bashir, who is brother to late Yusuf Haji. When we had the meeting, the brother to the late said, we are ready. All the family said, we must support Abdul to go for this seat. And congratulations to the family, and be blessed. Number two, I want to congratulate Garissa County, especially the political leaders, the religious leaders, the governor and the former governor, who actually mobilized all their clan members to support this plan of ensuring that Abdul takes over the seat of the father. Senator Haji was not senator for Garissa only. He was the senator for this country, simply because of what he has done. And as a result of that, Senator Haji, he has really brought up his family the same way he actually steered this house as a leader, as a man of wisdom. If you can go up to the grassroots level, his great-grandchildren and grandchildren, you will see that these are people who are brought up in a well-mannered, environment. If you interact with them, you will see Senator Yusuf Haji in them. The humility, the respect the family has, from the children to everybody. And really, today he's not with us, but his spirit is with us. And we must say, Almighty Allah will give him Jannatul Firdaus. Abdul, you've been a leader before you came to the Senate, and let me confirm to this house, Abdul used to campaign for the father. This is not his first time to be campaigning. He's been the one behind campaigning for the father. You are not new to the politics and also campaign. You have been a public servant. You are up to task. You must steer the people of Garissa to the next level and ensure that whatever Mzee has left behind, they must have all been actually implemented. And we will be able to assist you in achieving that. Abdul, I think you have done a lot. In fact, on Friday, last week, they were in Ijara trying to actually implement one of the activities the father started. And I was really impressed the kind of speech you gave to the people of Ijara. And I know there are very close family members who really supported you to make sure that you have come to this level. I know you are capable in terms of ensuring that you have done your job, but make sure you will not let down Garissa people, because they have bestowed that confidence in you. And I must thank individually the politicians who are here from Garissa, especially Mheshimiwa Sophia, who went through the whole process, footing throughout the process, ensuring that things are successful, and the entire family. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and welcome to the Senate. Make sure that you have actually understood all the procedures. We'll assist you. But let me confirm to you, Abdul, Mzee has never failed to come when there is a very important agenda in the house. Even when he was sick, he will call me and ask me, Fatuma, can I come today? When I know there is no agenda that is very important, I'll tell him, don't come. Yeah? So you must follow his footsteps in ensuring that you have established your footstep as a leader in this country. And I know that people in this house, especially the senators, will assist you to achieve all your objectives. The Secretariat is also very hardworking and very active, and ensuring that members of Parliament who have been sworn in have settled properly. You are actually in good hands. So what is remaining from today is to make sure that you are delivered to people of Garissa and what your father stood for
and the family stood for. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, let's keep to the 2 minutes. Senator Falhada.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to welcome and congratulate my brother Abdul Kadir Haji. And first of all, I want to thank God for every process that we were going through. And I want to wish all Muslims across the globe, and I'm wishing you Ramadan Mubarak. And Mr. Speaker, today remind me when we were sworn in our brother Abdul Kadir, and when we were sworn in August 2017, when I was walking down, and the late Haji, Mzee Haji, walked me down, and I wish I could have done that, but because there was some other arrangement, unfortunately I couldn't, but I wish him all the best. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all the communities from Garissa who unanimously accept my brother Abdul Kadir to be the senator for Garissa. I want to thank all the leadership from Garissa, all the Muslim communities, all the Islamic leaders to unanimously accept my brother Abdul Kadir to the Senate. Abdul Kadir, welcome to the Senate, and I wish you all the best, and we will work together, inshallah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Gideon Moi, through virtue. Senator Moi. Okay, seemingly we can't get him. Senator Mwenye Haji.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kujiunga na maseneta wenzangu kumpa kongole Senator Haji ambaye alichaguliwa bila ya kupingwa kama seneta wa gatuzi la Garissa. Mheshimiwa Spika, viatu anavyovaa Senator Haji ni vikubwa sana, na sisi kama maseneta wenzake ambao tunafanya kazi, ni jukumu letu kuhakikisha kwamba tunamsaidia ili kuona kwamba anatekeleza jukumu lake kama seneta wa gatuzi la Garissa, na vile vile pia mtumishi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, tajiriba ya Senator Haji inajulikana na haina haja ya kurudia hapa, na Mwenyezi Mungu mtume wetu sallallahu alaihi wasallam anasema kwamba mtu anapoondoka duniani huwa amali yake imekwisha isipokuwa mambo matatu. Kwanza, sadaka tujari, yani sadaka ambazo ametoa mbeleni ambazo zitamsaidia. Pili, mtoto mwema ambaye atafanya mambo mazuri, na tatu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kama ameweza kujenga shule ama kusomesha watoto ambao wataweza kumwombea dua. Mheshimiwa Spika, Senator Haji marehemu aliweza kutekeleza mambo hayo yote matatu, kwa sababu mtoto wake Haji tuliona wakati ulipokuwa na shambulizi la kigaidi aliweza kutetea watu ambao alikuwa hawajui kabisa, na hiyo ni ishara kwamba ni mtoto mwema, na kwa hivyo tutamtakia kila laheri katika jukumu lake jipya kama seneta wa gatuzi la Garissa. Mheshimiwa Spika, la mwisho ni kumshauri kwa mzee Haji marehemu alikuwa na national, tunaweza kuita jukumu la kitaifa, kwanza kama mhudumu katika civil servant, na vile vile kama senator ambaye alitegemewa na wengi kusimamia masuala mazito kama vile ya usalama. Mheshimiwa Spika, hata alipochaguliwa kuwa mwenyekiti wa pili katika kamati ya BBI, ilikuwa ni jukumu lake kubwa sana, kwa sababu aliona kwamba ni nafasi ya kuunganisha Wakenya. Kwa hivyo unapochukua majukumu yako, ndugu Haji, ina maana kwamba lazima ufuatilie kwa makini na ufuate nyayo za mzee, kuhakikisha kwamba yale majukumu na malengo ambayo mzee aliyasimamia hayawezi kutofautiana na malengo yako binafsi. Mwisho kabisa, Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna baadhi ya wameanza Ramadhani leo, wengine wataanza kesho. Nachukua fursa hii kuwatakia Ramadhani Mubarak, na ndugu yangu Haji ameapishwa wakati tunaanza mwezi mtukufu wa Ramadhani leo. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Gideon Moi.
late father. So mine is just to wish him well and Godspeed. Karibu to the Senate. Thank you.
Honorable Gideon Moi, order. We cannot allow strangers. We cannot allow strangers in the name of God in the House. Senator Farhi. Senator Farhia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to congratulate our brother, Senator Abdul Haji, for being elected as Garissa Senator unanimously by all the residents of Garissa. And like Senator Orengo said, he's a Kenyan senator, not a Garissa senator alone, because all the parties decided to support him, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Abdul is not, well, he's a household name. He made his own name during the Westgate attack, Mr. Speaker, and he's our hero up to today. So many Kenyans know him through that. Mr. Speaker, I also watched his interview on Citizen. And I'm telling you, Mr. Speaker, he will just hit the ground running because he was so eloquent. He was so good at his point, precise and to the point. And I'm telling you, he's an admirable young man. Abdul, we used to call your father Baba in this house. The people who just joined from our region who joined politics recently. And I'm telling you, he gave us advice that was life-changing in terms of our political career, Mr. Speaker, when we first came to this chamber. And Mr. Speaker, Yusuf Haji was, late Senator Yusuf Haji was not only a peacemaker even in the whole country, but even in terms of northern Kenya where there is a lot of conflict. Every time there was a conflict in northern Kenya, Mr. Speaker, he was there. And Mr. Speaker, I am sure Abdul will be able to step on those shoes because he was a hero by his own standards in the first place as seen in the Westgate. So I have no doubt that he will achieve a lot. Mr. Speaker, I just want to advise him that our primary role in this House is to defend counties and their government in terms of resource sharing and in terms of good governance in counties. And we normally even have conflict with our sister house in terms of, resource allocation to the counties, but senators always stand with the counties. And I hope that county governments will use those resources we fight so hard to get for them, Mr. Speaker. Even, let me give you the example of now the current formula that is giving a lot of resources to the county. I hope that money will be utilized well. Mr. Speaker, allow me also to wish all the Muslims Ramadan Mubarak, and may it be a blessed month. As Muslims, let us pray very hard so that there is this pandemic that's going on in this country and everywhere in the world, that Allah brings His mercy so that this pandemic leaves this country, and may everybody else get the blessing of this month. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Margaret Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to welcome Senator Abdul Haji to the House. May I take the first opportunity to congratulate Senator Haji. I was very surprised that he chose the seat of the father, because the father always sat there, or maybe somebody chose it for him. I want to say congratulations and welcome to the House. Mr. Speaker, secondly, I want to thank the people of Garissa for making it very easy for us to remember Senator Yusuf Haji. They did not want any competition. They just decided that they are going to choose one person, and that's his son. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the family. We are told that the family sat and made a clear decision. What that means, Senator Abdul, as you said, we should be calling you Abdul. What that means is that you have a lot to do to maintain the position that you have been given. When something is given very easily, maintaining it becomes a challenge. But we have no doubt, because as we said, we have known you from before because of your other activities. But fitting into the shoes of your father is something that we want to encourage you to do. We are very grateful, some of us, to your father. We were not able to say it to the family at that time, but we also say it in this house. We hope you'll be able to get the answer to the family, because we said a lot of good things about your father. For me, personally, and coming from, we knew Yusuf Haji as the PC. And sometimes we joked when he was here, and I said, my boss, the PC, because that is who he was. He was a man of peace. He was a man of integrity. I met him first when he came to be the district commissioner in Trans Nzoia. I believe you were already born. In fact, sometimes I looked at Yusuf and I said, how many schools did your children go to? Because you were as mobile as his good heart was. Anywhere that needed healing, anywhere that needed reconciliation, Yusuf Haji was the person. When he came to Trans Nzoia, to lift us back because of an election that was that had a lot of conflicts. But more when he was in Rift Valley, and I want to say congratulations on behalf of the people of Rift Valley, he made a mark by being a very neutral, very just administrator. We believe that that blood is running in you. Kalenjins, Mr. Speaker, believe that a lion cannot give birth to a wolf. So we believe that you are the lion that was left by Yusuf Haji. We believe that his children are lions. They are not the wolves. So I want to encourage you, Senator Abdul Haji, to follow the footsteps of your father, as you have always done through what you did when we had a calamity in this nation. You volunteered the way your father had a very strong voluntary attitude. I said this out of experience because he changed a lot of things for us. For those of us who worked with him very closely, he actually mentored me a lot into leadership himself. So be the mentor that the people of Garissa want. Be the leader that will the people of Garissa, but stay in the shoes of your father and be the national leader that all of us are expecting. Thank you, family. Thank you, leadership from Garissa, because this is a very big statement that you have made to the nation of Kenya. I think maybe in the future, we should be seeing other parts of the country talking in a cohesive manner, because even conflicts that come in within a county do not help anybody. I want to congratulate Garissa for a show of unity and love for their leader. With those remarks, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Congratulations, Abdul, and welcome to the House.
Senator Musurve.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I join you and my fellow senators in congratulating Senator Abdul and welcome him to this House. And Honorable Speaker, it must be very clear, and Kenyans must know, that, and also the people of Garissa must know, that Abdul Kadir is a very courageous young person. And this is demonstrated in the act he did during the Westgate. That was already indicative that he has the courage to represent Kenyans. He has the courage to also make laws that can be enforced to ensure that Kenyans live well, and also he has the courage also to oversight. So in this young man, I see a legislator who is able to represent his people effectively, who is able to make laws that will help his people effectively, and also who is able to oversight. However, I want to say to you, Senator, that you have the the goodwill of the people of Garissa. You have the goodwill of all the parties, and because no party floated a candidate to challenge you. So that tells you that you have the face of Kenya, and you need to maintain that face of Kenya, which was also reflected in your father, because your father had the face of Kenya, and he was impartial, and he was warm to everyone despite the political divide. So I want to say, Senator Abdul, that yes, you can fit in your father's footsteps. When I look at you, I see a legislator who will stay many years in this house, because the people of Garissa have spoken in one voice. You have their goodwill. So you have to nurture the goodwill so that you come back next time and the other time, so that the people can benefit from you being in the house. Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity, for welcoming a young man who did a heroic act. And Honorable Speaker, to be honest, these are some of the people that should be given national recognition, because many people, when they see gunmen coming, they run. Even the courageous people run under the bed, and even courageous people run away. But Senator Abdul Kadir was courageous enough to ensure that he saved a life, and this act must be recognized even nationally. Welcome to the House. Thank you, Speaker, for giving me the opportunity.
Senator Mazayo.
Shukran, Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, kwanza nataka kutoa kongole kwa niaba yangu watu wa Kilifi County na kuweza kumpa kongole kubwa ndugu yangu Abdul, hasa zaidi kwa watu maalum, watu wenye nidhamu wa Garissa, na kwa kuweza kumchagua bila upinzani wa aina yoyote ndugu yetu Abdul Kadir kama seneta wa Garissa. Mimi nataka kusema kwamba ndugu yangu Abdul, wewe ni kitinda mimba ndani ya Senate. Na kawaida sisi watu wa pwani ama wa Kenya kwa jumla huwa tunasema kitinda mimba ni mtoto wa mwisho ambaye anapendwa na kila mtu. Na hakika wewe katika hili bunge letu la Senate tumeshaona vile ambavyo watu wamekupokea na wamekuwa na imani na upendo juu yako ndugu yangu Abdul. Nataka kusema moyo wa wale watu wa Garissa usubwage ndugu yangu, kama seneta wao wa Garissa. Waekee heshima vile babangu mzee Haji aliweza kuwaekea heshima watu wa Garissa. Kitu cha pili ni kwamba Abdul si jina geni katika Kenya. Ni kijana ameonyesha umaarufu, ama ni seneta ambaye alionyesha umaarufu katika Kenya wakati ikiwa Kenya iko inapigwa na wale magaidi, na vile vile kitendo cha kuweza kumtetea na kuweza kumbeba mtoto mchanga mdogo aliyejua ako na miaka mingi ya kuishi ni kitendo ambacho ulivunja roho za Wakenya zote, na Wakenya wote waliweza kukupenda kwamba kwa ukakamavu wako na ujasiri ulio nao. Kwa mimi binafsi nataka kusema wewe ni shujaa wetu, wewe ni seneta wetu. Karibu sana ndani ya hili jumba la Senate. Hili ni jumba ambalo utajifundisha mengi. Utaketi na watu waheshimiwa ambao wamekuwa na experience kubwa sana kama mzee mwenye Haji. Kwa hiyo utaweza kujifundisha, na na hakika utaweza kufaulu katika njia zako zote za kutekeleza kazi yako ya seneta. La mwisho, watu wa Garissa hamukukosea hata kidogo. Mulionyesha msimamo, mmeonyesha matumaini, na nataka kusema ya kwamba wazee wale wa kule Garissa ni wazee ambao wakiketi na wakiongea na wakimwombea Mungu, na hakika ndugu yetu Abdul ako na maisha marefu, Mwenyezi Mungu atampa, na ushujaa utaendelea kuonekana, na usaidizi hususan kwa watu wa Garissa utaweza kupatikana kama vile mzee alikuwa akiwapatia matumaini watu wa Garissa. Mimi nataka pia vile kwa kumalizia kabisa, Bwana Spika, ukiniruhusu, kwa Waislamu wote ambao hivi sasa ndugu yetu amekuja ndani ya bunge la Senate, huu ni mwezi mtukufu ambao tutauanza kama ni kesho, ambapo watu Waislamu wote katika Kenya watakuwa katika kufunga katika mwezi huu mtukufu, na mimi nawatakia kila laheri Waislamu wote katika Kenya kwamba wawe na mwezi mtukufu wa Ramadhan na Mwenyezi Mungu awe nao pamoja. Shukran Bwana Speaker.
Senator Argura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to join my colleagues in congratulating and welcoming my brother Abdul Kadir Muhammad Yusuf Haji, the new senator for Garissa. On my own behalf and on behalf of the people of Marsabit County, people who are very grateful to his late father, Senator Muhammad Yusuf Haji, because when we went through what we went through in 2013 after the first elections under the new constitution, it took his intervention and that of former Speaker Francis Ole Kaparo to bring order to the people of Marsabit County, especially Moyale area, where people had gone to extremes which they have never gone before, burning their houses, some of them even becoming refugees in the neighboring country. Mr. Speaker, the election of Senator Abdul Kadir is something unique, especially to the pastoralist people in this country. Recently, I was talking to a public servant on an issue concerning some government issues in my county, and that public servant coming from the non-pastoralist part of this country was very bitter about how us pastoralists conduct our issues on tribal and clans line. We fight and we also do all our things in that direction. Surprisingly, in the same breath, he mentioned the name of the late Senator Yusuf Haji, saying that except for among the leaders he has seen from northern Kenya who are not involved in that tribal clan angle in terms of doing things, was Senator, the late Muhammad Yusuf Haji. And now again, the people of Garissa in his honor has done something which the pastoralists of this country, especially from northern Kenya, need to emulate. That we need to use this opportunity to make sure that we practice this kind of negotiated democracy where we use it to unite us instead of always dividing ourselves along these clan and tribal lines, which I'm sure the people of Garissa now have shown that it's something we can overcome. Let's even implement it even in our own ways of life, the way we live, and we also can overcome this issue of clashes over pasture and all those things in honor of this kind of a great leader who the people of Garissa have already shown. Lastly, I'd like to welcome you, my brother, to this house and tell you that we normally say the first time you're given, the second time it's you to work for it. Now you have the opportunity to work for this and prove to the people of Garissa that you have to task and you can represent them so that they can give you another chance. Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me a chance to welcome Senator Abdul Haji. On my behalf and on behalf of the people of Kajiado County, I also want to congratulate him and welcome him to the Senate. Mr. Speaker, his late father, Senator Yusuf Haji, was a well-known senator by the people of Kajiado, when he worked as a PC for many years in the Rift Valley. He was somebody who was really valued because of his much knowledge on issues to do with the pastoralist. And therefore, we are happy that the people of Garissa have extended that value to his son, and so by giving him a chance to serve in this house. I just want to wish him well, and I also want to pray for him as he serves the people of Garissa. And I want to really urge him to look at policies and legislations that will help the people of Garissa and also the pastoralist communities as a whole. And I also want to tell him that his father, whom I used to sit right behind him, because I used to sit where you are seated now, used to interact well with all Kenyans. He used to interact well with women, he used to interact well with the pastoralist communities, and especially when there are issues that are dealing with our marginalized communities. He is somebody who was rich in knowledge. He was somebody who could read quite a lot. I remember the last time we spoke with him before he became sick. We were looking at the boundaries of Makueni and Kajiado, where there is some dispute. And he was somebody with a lot of knowledge. Even without looking at the books, he could tell you a very big history concerning our counties. And so we wish you well, and we also want to thank the people of Garissa so much because of entrusting that responsibility to you and the family as a whole and the leadership of Garissa County. We also want to urge you to also oversight those resources that your late dad used to really fight for them, because you would always stand for the allocation of counties in whichever side of the debate that will make sure that benefits goes to our counties. And so I want to urge you that even as you serve the nation as a whole, make sure that you also be very specific and very alert on issues that goes to the people of Garissa, and especially the resources that goes to Garissa County. Make sure that they are used well, and they are used also in a transparent way. Thank you.
Leader of majority, the rest I will give you an opportunity in our second order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take the earliest opportunity to join you and join the Senate in welcoming the latest and newest member, Abdul Haji, the Senator for Garissa. Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate the young senator from Garissa, for Garissa, whom I have had the privilege of working with and knowing, and that is on top of course, working with his father, the late Yusuf Haji. Mr. Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to wish him and his family the happiest and the moment that they have now. I want to say to the people of Garissa, thank you. The people of Garissa have shown wisdom in making sure that they do not disrupt progress. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, the people of Garissa have not known any disruption since they lost their senator, the late Yusuf Haji, because as soon as he passed on as a speaker, the young son, who is now senator, and the team seen up there, took up the challenge and continued with the activities of the senator, and so the people of Garissa never felt a loss in terms of the work that was in progress. And so the coming in of young Abdul is not at all a surprise for most of us who know him and who know his credentials that he comes with. Mr. Speaker, I want to also thank the members of the Senate who helped. I remember Deputy Majority Leader working very hard to make sure that we have this swearing in today, and many of the members who supported that. My only advice I can say to Abdul is you are now a full senator. You should not take anything in half measures. You are the senator for Garissa. You are basically in your full shoes, and there is no more excuses about whether you are now new or inexperienced. We know that you can run and do the work that is before you. Just know that you have been elected to the majority side, and I want to tell you that you are on the right side of the House. The main thing that you need to remember is that we have offices, and the office of the Majority Leader, the office of the Chief Whip, the office of the other, of the Speaker, the offices of the Deputy are open. We have an open door policy and you can come in. By the way, you need to know that there are some, of course, I know everybody wants to push you to think in terms of some side shows. There are some side shows that you had from Mutula Kiloso Jr., people like Murkomen and others about a team that was there. That's history. It was gone. We now have a good and balanced formula that has been used in this year's revenue. Mr. Speaker, I just want to encourage ourselves that when a new senator comes in, and you saw that, Mr. Speaker, how it was done by the family, by saying that the leader of the minority in his own right, and the deputy leader on this side escort the young new senator. That already makes sure that we are working across the aisle with each other, and that was a very good thing that they did, to be seen, to be working across the aisle. Ramadan Mubarak to you and your family, and to all Muslims in this country and the world as they start this journey that is about to start it today and maybe tomorrow. But, Mr. Speaker, we all want to welcome the young senator from Garissa. We call him young, and somebody has already said, of course he's young because I'm older. He's older than some of these other people around here. But for him, I call him young because I know him that way. The Speaker, I want to conclude by saying that Yusuf Haji trained his family well. He traveled this country with his family wherever he worked. And so they are already nationalists. And Abdul was always there, everywhere where the father went. And so he's a nationalist, and that's why he portrayed heroism that we all know. And so he can do it here. He's eloquent, he's brave, and he can run the county of Garissa and be part of the national agenda. Congratulations again, and welcome to the Senate. Thank you.
Next order.
Sit, take your seat.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you to this special sitting. I hope that you have been adhering to the COVID-19 protocols and have now been vaccinated. Honorable Senators, on the request of the Senate Majority Leader and with the support of the requisite number of senators, I appointed today, Tuesday, 13th April 2021, as a day for a special sitting of the Senate-wide Gazette Notice number 3298, dated 9th April 2021. In the Gazette Notice, I indicated that the business to be transacted at this special sitting shall be swearing in of the Senator-elect for Garissa County and the consideration of the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bills number 7 of 2021. Honorable Senators, as you may recall, the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021 was tabled in the Senate on 30th March 2021 pursuant to Article 218, 1A of the Constitution and Standing Order 181, 1, which provide that at least 2 months before the end of each financial year, there shall be introduced in Parliament a Division of Revenue Bill. Further, Standing Order number 1813 provides that the Senate is required to conclude the consideration of the Division of Revenue Bill not later than 14 days after it has been introduced. Honorable Senators, the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021 is critical because it provides for the division of revenue raised nationally among the national and county levels of government as required by Article 218 of the Constitution. Further, the Supreme Court advisory reference number 3 of 2019 noted that the enactment of an Appropriation Act cannot precede the enactment of the Division of Revenue Act. The Appropriation Bill is crucial as it authorizes the national government to withdraw money from the consolidated fund for the expenditure of the national government. Consequently, the timely passage of the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bills number 7 of 2021 is critical as it will inform the annual budget estimates and the appropriation bill. This is the reason for convening this special sitting, and as provided in Standing Order 137-2, we shall consider the bill at second reading, committee of the whole and the third reading. Honorable Senators, in accordance with Standing Order number 35, the business specified in the Gazette notice and as outlined in the order paper shall be the only business before the Senate during the special sitting, following which the Senate shall stand adjourned until Tuesday, 11th May 2021 at 10 a.m. In accordance with the Senate calendar. I thank you. But before we do that, just like I've said, we shall adjourn until May. I would like to take this opportunity to give Senator Abdulkadir Mohamed Haji an opportunity to make his maiden speech before we proceed. Senator Haji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for giving me this opportunity to address this honorable House. I want to begin by expressing my gratitude to the Almighty God. I'm grateful for His never-ending grace, mercy, and blessings, which have seen me through these past very difficult weeks. As I rise to speak for the very first time today, I feel a profound sense of gratitude to the people of Garissa County. It is a remarkable privilege and honor they have given me to serve as their senator. The people of Garissa are an optimistic, hopeful, patriotic, hardworking, and determined people. A people defined by their values, traditions, culture, and artifacts handed down by previous generations. A people with high aspirations for a better future and who continue to overcome great odds to play their part in nation building. This is the character of the people I represent, and these are the people I am honored to serve. To the elders, political leaders, women and youth leaders of Garissa County, I say thank you. You have shown what is possible when everyone is brought together at the table of brotherhood. You have shown that it is possible to reach a consensus. In the course of my service, I want to assure you that my key agenda will be to always strive to ensure that no matter whatever difference in opinion or position on issues, we will always have a platform to express them, be heard, to reach a consensus for the good of our people and counties. I want to assure you that I will strive and do my very best to uphold the trust you have placed in me to be your voice inside and outside this House. I also want to thank my party leader, the President, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and my party for the overwhelming show of confidence and support. Mr. Speaker, sir, I also want to thank the honorable members here for their message of congratulations, and to just mention that they have put more pressure on me than I came. They've spoken very kind words, and I want to thank them. Mr. Speaker, I stand before you today a new member with much to learn about the workings of this House. But one thing that has stood out for me so far is the warm welcome I have received from the honorable members and the staff who dedicatedly serve this House so admirably. For this, I say I am grateful. Honorable members, my sense of reverence for this Senate is enhanced in the realization that this third Senate, since the formation of the Republic, that this is the third Senate since the formation of the Republic. The first Senate was constituted between 1963 to 1966. The second sat between 2013 and 2017. And I am privileged to be part of the third sitting. As I reflect on this honorable institution, it is not lost on me that historically, the Kenyan Senate has always been formed at pivotal moments whenever our country has tried to re-engineer, renew, and rebirth itself. Indeed, the Senate has never grappled with easy issues. It has been faced with enormous challenges, and I would like to illustrate briefly. When the first Senate was formed, at the formation of the Republic, it faced the challenge of a young nation trying to break free from the shackles of colonialism. The second Senate was birthed when Kenya ushered in a new constitutional dispensation. It was faced with the challenge of bringing to life the new constitutional order and setting up the foundations of ideals and aspirations contained therein. The third convention of the Senate, which I now join, is also faced with tough challenges. The COVID-19 pandemic has tragically exposed the risks humanity faces and how unprepared we are to respond. People's health, well-being, and livelihoods are all affected. We are faced with a crisis which has only served to reveal various cracks in the fabric of our nationhood. Make no mistake, this is a crisis faced world over. The pandemic is grappling in every state in this world of ours, and we're no exception. However, an honest look at our country shows that it has only revealed the growing economic and social inequalities that existed way before and have only been worsened through the pandemic. I joined this House at a time when my people in Garissa and all Kenyans are experiencing unprecedented tough times. We are losing Kenyans to COVID, 2,300 and counting. These are not just statistics. They are fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, grandparents, and friends. Families are in pain. As someone who has undergone the loss of a loved one, I know this pain all too well. It is a pain made worse by the uncertainty of what the future holds. Does this Senate have a role in easing the collective pain we have undergone and continue to experience as a country? Does this third Senate have a role in renewing the collective dreams, hopes, and aspirations of Kenyans? In my humble opinion, we have a role. The Constitution empowers us to represent the interests of the counties and their governments. And in this, I read that the debates and decisions we make, especially during these challenging times, must be empathetic to the people we represent in those counties. We must show empathy by being creative in how we make sure that the resources we oversight for our counties create a much needed relief for our people. We must show our empathy by questioning our county governments on how they have utilized resources meant for improving healthcare over the years, and especially during the pandemic period. We must show our empathy to the people we represent when we condemn and swiftly act on any corruption that robs our counties of its future and potential. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is not my intent to sound presumptuous. It is my first day, however. And it is not my intention to sound or seem to advise my senior colleagues, not at all. But when you're relatively youthful, as I am, then the burden of expectations by the young people of Garissa County and Kenya at large bears heavy upon my shoulders. In fact, in the messages of congratulations sent to me by these young people, they're also asking me to figure out a way in which we can help expand the scope of opportunities for them. Many are grappling with unemployment and underemployment. During this COVID pandemic period and post-COVID, we will be entering an age where work and jobs will be more fundamentally disrupted than at any point in the history of our country. As at Friday, April 9, 2021, the population of Kenya was just over 54.6 million, with the average age being between 20 years. These majority youth are discouraged and disillusioned by the uncertainty, the future they face. I joined this honorable House from the private sector, having been a small business owner. I want to present to this third Senate that perhaps one way we shall imprint ourselves into the annals of history is when we figure a way through which we can support the county governments to create an enabling environment in which the youth can create small businesses which are facilitated to thrive. This will in turn help the county governments raise revenue and bridge the deficits they are currently running, and more importantly, deal with the challenge of youth unemployment. Like I said earlier, I am still very new, and I look forward to be guided on how I can serve to make this reality for the youth in our counties. As I draw to an end, I want to thank all those who supported me from across the political spectrum. I received invaluable support from all the different political caucuses, and I don't take this for granted. In fact, it has made me reflect on the possibilities of what we can achieve when we put unity of purpose above divisive partisanship. We have before us an opportunity to set aside anything that divides us and work together to confront the challenges we face during this pandemic period. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I draw to a close, I want to talk about someone who means so much to me. To the honorable senators here, my father was a friend, a colleague. To the people of Garissa, he was their son, their elder, and their servant. And to Kenyans, a long-serving public servant. But to me, he was my father. And please allow me to speak about him briefly. Honorable members, I am humbled to follow into this house in the footsteps of my father. He was my mentor, whose value and views I carry with me to these honorable chambers. I also thank you all, honorable members. Mr. Speaker, sir, upon his passing on February 15th, 2021, the Honorable Senator, Senior Counsel, James Orengo, moved a motion in this very House paying tribute to my father. I thank him very, very much. I also thank all the honorable members who stood up one after the other as they gave moving speeches, remembering him with so many kind words. I thank you all. As a family, we watched you pay your tributes and also learned so many new things about our father. And on behalf of the entire family, and especially on behalf of my mother, I thank you all. And God bless you all. What can I say about the world's greatest dad? I know it's a cliche for a son to say that about his father. But to us, his children, he was simply the best and the greatest. Dad was honorable. He was kind. He was more than fair. He was gentle, loving, and so giving. He was always quick to forgive. He forgave anybody and everybody. He never ever kept a grudge, or he was never pushed to get back at someone. It just wasn't in his nature. He loved us, his family. He was an incredible husband to my mother, a wonderful father to us, a loving grandfather, a patient teacher, and a dependable friend. He taught us so much, and more often than not, he taught us through his actions, for he was a man of very few words. We learned so many things from him, and I miss him so much. I know we have all heard this before, that life is short, and you don't know what you have until it is gone. This has been my reality since his departure. My dad was tough on us, his children, more so on my brother because he was older than me. In retrospect, there was wisdom in this. I'm also humbled by my mom's strength over the past few days and her ability to focus on the amazing life she shared with my dad and not dwell on what she has lost. I hope that through this I can find strength from her example and be there for her whenever she needs me. For years, Mom and Dad shared everything life could offer together. They were a great team supporting each other in every way. I remember growing up, my dad used to work a lot, travel a lot. We would move from province to province or district to district. Senator asked how many schools we went to. I went to 8 primary schools in my life. My dad will not have us stay in another town and him stay in another town. I remember one time I asked my mother, "Why does Dad work so much?" She looked at me and said, "All fathers work hard. All fathers work a lot." I didn't realize it then, but that was one of the biggest lessons I learned from my father, the value of hard work. He woke up every day, put on his shoes, and went to work. Even when he was unwell, he would get up and go to work. He truly believed that if you work hard, treated people with respect, helped where you could, and with a little luck from God, you would have a meaningful life. He showed strength and love right up until his last days with us. I loved my dad. I loved the times I spent with him, whether it was just talking at home, at his workplace, or on the campaign trail, because there were always lessons to be learned. I just realized this very morning that the month of Ramadan has started. This is a month where families get together, break their fast together, and worship together. This will be the first month of Ramadan in my life that I spend without my dear father. It is not lost on me, and I can never forget that I'm here today as the Senator of Garissa County due to the grace of God and because of the heritage my father has left. He bequeathed us, his children, with something more valuable than all the treasures of this world. He left us with incredible and reliable friends. Many friends, I can't even keep up with all of them, who are still sending us messages of what he meant to them. We are truly blessed and grateful to our late father. I pray to God like a son prays for his late father, that God receives him in his mercy, protect him from the trials of the grave, provide him with light and honorable company in the grave. And I pray to God to wipe away all his sins and grant him the highest accord. Amen. It is said that we must not only hope for the best, but also work for it. The wonderful people of Garissa have continued to raise my hopes through their determined spirits, resilience, hard work, and patriotism. And I look forward to getting to work for them and for this wonderful country, Kenya. I'm also optimistic and I'm hopeful that we as leaders can collectively create a great future for this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, once again, I thank you and I thank all the honorable members here. And I pray to God to bless us all. God bless our nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, I yield the floor back to you.
so I'm getting in trouble. Madam Speaker, senators are people. Madam Speaker, the following paper on the table of the Senate today, Tuesday, 13th April 2021. Report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on its consideration of the Division of Revenue Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2021.
We need to sanitize this microphone. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I request that this very good report be circulated at the earliest for benefit of members, or alternatively, or simultaneously, request that it is posted on our various platforms so that members can have a benefit of it as we commence the debate on the division of revenue. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
From circulating the report either online or in any other form, what I was requesting is that since members are not seized and it is a very critical document, we can also suspend the House until afternoon so that we can get time to seize the matter. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, we seem to be having two challenges where our microphones are not working. About 35 minutes before we finish the session. I would now like to accept the proposal from Senator Gerargay so that we suspend the session until 2:30. In which case you will have done the reading and the technical team will have helped us to sort out the microphones. So the House therefore stands suspended until 2:30 p.m.
that were raised by the membership and how you would go about addressing those concerns. I'm talking about the delegated powers under the third schedule, paragraph 15, 16, and 17 of the Judicial Service Act.
I have not read the decision, but I think that when power is given, it is always important to have checks on the power. So my short answer to that would be that when we exercise power, we should know that we are open to being questioned about the basis upon which we exercise that power and whether it yields just outcomes for all.
So what would you propose to do if you became the Chief Justice? Because that matter was directly instituted against the Chief Justice in his capacity as exercising that power, the delegated power from the JSC. Mm-hmm. So if you became the Chief Justice, what would you do to address those concerns?
I mean, I've said that I haven't read the decision, but if the concerns were about being high-handed, it is...
maybe I can just, yes. Now that you say you didn't read the decision, they were concerned about the fact that the power to suspend and interdict and also issue severe reprimand and reprimand offense against Article 27, it doesn't afford them protection of the law, and also offense Article, I believe 47, unfair administrative action.
No, I think basically anybody exercising that kind of power ought to do it within the confines of the law. And I think even as the Chief Justice exercises the delegated power, it is good to have, because you see, this is an institution of justice. It is important to have a mechanism for availing people hearings, I mean a right to be heard, because that is a basic principle in natural justice.
Thank you. The last question I'd like to ask. I also picked from your CV that in your dissertation, you dealt with the topic inadequacies of the criminal procedure in magistrates' courts. This was in 1987. Of course, the law has grown over time, both in substance and in procedure. And just wanted maybe if you could highlight for us what inadequacies you are able to identify and whether over time those inadequacies have now been addressed.
I formed my mind to do this dissertation after the second year of study, when students go on judicial attachment. And when I went to court, I actually went to the courts in Murang'a. What struck me was the way the accused would be told, you can actually either stand there or sit without being told what the implications are. Because you can you can talk whilst you've been sworn or unsworn without being told what that was. And invariably, because the court seemed very intimidating for many of the accused, many of them, when they were asked, do you want to move from there to there, they said, no, I'll just sit here. Because you see, you want minimum movement. And I found that to be problematic. The other thing I found is because I speak the Kikuyu language with fluency and facility, I was very critical about the way in which the translation was being done. And I could tell that some of the things that were being translated were really not capturing what the person was saying. So I don't know whether these things have been dealt with, but those two really stood out for me.
Okay, and then, still on your CV, in 1994, you had opportunity to work on a task force that reviewed the criminal laws. Did the terms of reference include the procedures? And if so, how did you go about addressing those inadequacies that you've just highlighted?
To be honest with you, I really can't remember. I would have to go to the report to see what the TORs were, because 1994 is almost, it's almost 30 years ago. Yeah.
Thank you. That will be all for now.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Ruade. Professor, I know you touched a bit on judicial independence, but I would like to request the Commissioner Honorable AG to continue in that line, among other issues. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Professor, Senior Counsel. Just a question first on your leadership style. You alluded to this in the context of the questions put to you in relation to the Supreme Court. What style of leadership would you adopt for the other superior courts, the magistracy, the 5,000-odd judiciary staff, and indeed the world at large, these main stakeholders outside the judiciary?
I would describe my leadership style as not one thing. I mean, I am a visionary and transformative person, and to that extent, I lead from the front. And I think I said that I'm really not afraid to go where people have not gone. So in terms of leading from the front, I'm visionary, but having crafted the vision, I bring in people, but participative and democratic, because again, if you go with a vision and you don't have people, you need your vision carriers. So rallying people to move with a vision, because you see, you can be a leader and you need your managers to be the executors of your vision. So I'd say leading from the front, having the vision, and then leading from behind by rallying people around myself through that deliberative participatory process, but also through coaching and mentorship, so that I can expand we can expand the competences of the team that we work with to execute the strategy or the vision.
Might you be a little more specific, say, with regard to the superior courts? Are you aware of the mechanisms that are currently in place, say, with the High Court? Whom would you engage as you seek to bring that collegiality, that leading from the front, and so on?
I would engage like with the Court of Appeal, there is a president, but with the other courts, some have the principal judges, and you also have the leaders of the different divisions. And of course, because it is not just the judicial function, there is also the administrative function. I think working with the chief registrar to also get the buy-in of the directorate heads.
And with the magistracy and the non-judicial staff?
With the magistracy, I'd work with the registrars. And also, of course, with the Cathys, there is the chief Cathy. And there is also the registrar responsible for the tribunals, which are also since 2010 under the judiciary.
Thank you very much, Professor. Now, you've described yourself as a scholar, a thinker, an intellectual, and I think there was a bit of a, whether you could be described as a jurist, but whatever the case, what do you consider in that context to be your strongest attribute?
my strongest attribute as a thinker. And I'm looking at which different courts, like the Supreme Court here, which actually draw from academics, because academics tend to be thinkers.
And how would you apply that in your role as Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court?
I would use it in leading my team. I mean, being diligent in bringing out what issues are coming out, and also in terms of, especially with jurisprudence, and with regard to the administrative aspects, I would use it to also get the buy-in of my colleagues, my colleagues and the staff that I work with.
Thank you. You've also discussed judicial independence and accountability. And I think you have acknowledged that there are challenges that face the judiciary in achieving judicial independence. How would you summarize those challenges, and how would you address them?
I think the challenges that the judiciary has in being independent, one is the finances. And I think here the Constitution envisioned a judiciary fund. And it would be good to operationalize that so that the judiciary is able to determine the way in which it utilizes the finances that are allocated to it.
Anything else?
Is that with regard to independence or accountability?
No, independence first.
Independence. I think the other thing is just abiding by the principles in the code. I mean, the impartiality and absence of bias. That, I think, is something that the judiciary could also do.
How do you, for instance, how should the courts relate to the other arms of government?
Okay, judicial independence relates to the decisional independence of the judiciary, whether you're talking about individual judges or you're talking about the courts. But when it comes to relating with the other arms of government, I think there is an element of interdependence, because all of them are working to serve the same Kenyans. So I would say that independence is decisional, but interdependence comes in when you're talking about, for instance, allocation of resources, etc.
And I think you also observed, Professor, that you would engage the attributes of diplomacy, and the other one was negotiation. How would you apply those in resolving some of those challenges in that interdependence relationship?
You know, diplomacy and negotiation require people coming to the space of decision making, being open with each other about the kinds of challenges, for instance, the judiciary is having. So it would be good to have good discussions and engage discussions with the president, if it is about the judges, but there are also other executive arms that affect the way in which the judiciary runs, like in terms of allocation of resources. So I would actually go to it with a lot of really minded to find solutions rather than to create barriers.
Thank you. And finally, you've spoken a lot about Wanjiku. Wanjiku, rightly or wrongly, believes that the judiciary is corrupt. How would you go about dissuading Wanjiku that that is not the case? And if it is indeed the case, how would you correct it?
You know, this whole issue of the judiciary is corrupt. Again, we have been talking about myself as a scholar, so I have not done any research. I wouldn't say the judiciary is corrupt. But having said that, there is perception of corruption. And perception of corruption, in my view, is as bad, if not worse, than corruption itself. Because if you catch corruption, you deal with it. But you know, perception of corruption is an issue that plagued the judiciary before the 2010 Constitution, and it died for some time, but now there is perception of corruption. I think it is important to use the internal mechanisms, like the Office of the Judiciary Ombudsperson, to deal firmly with even these perceptions. Because you see, it harms the image of the judiciary. I mean, and I don't think that anybody wants to get into an institution where you get in and the next day people are saying you're corrupt just because of perception. So I think we need to do things from the inside to remove that perception, and that is by working on the mechanisms that we have within the judiciary.
Are you at all familiar with those mechanisms, or any one of them? Why are they not working if they already exist? What would you, as Chief Justice, do to ensure that those mechanisms work and that the perception you've talked about is reduced or eradicated?
You know, you have to use, Attorney General, you have to use carrots and sticks. You have to get the institution to accept. As Chief Justice, I would get the institution to accept that this perception of corruption is not good. Because, you know, the people are hardworking people. And then perceptions are things that hover over the institution. And then I would use the mechanisms that are there. You know, people are not corrupt in, people will not be accepting bribes or engaging in corrupt activities before the glare of cameras. So I would have a process of even whistleblowers who then enable us to get people who are engaged in the vice. And I believe once you get one and you handle them firmly, then you will have removed the rotten egg, if you like, and that could actually lead to a better perception of our judiciary.
Thank you, Professor. Good afternoon. Chair, that's all from me.
Thank you very much, Honorable AG. Professor, I will now request Commissioner Patrick Kishohi to engage you on areas to do with finance and human resource, and any other area that he might want to engage you in. Commissioner Kishohi.
Thank you, Professor. Good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon.
Just before I go to the issues of finance and human resource, as a Chief Justice, if you get this position, and you are in a very competitive economic environment, both nationally and also regionally, a lot of investment, investors coming and going. If you get this position of Chief Justice, what would be your law, or what would you do to ensure that you don't lose in terms of our socio-economic investment to other countries? One thing that you do.
Okay. I think expeditious determination of disputes that come into court is one thing, because investors want clarity and they also want certainty. So working towards ensuring that all those mechanisms in the judiciary that put out how long cases should take are adhered to, so that when people talk about ease of doing business, we are not seeing our country more from the bottom. We move up.
Are you talking about a time frame that if you have a case on investment, you know you're a foreign investor and you have other choices, that if I'm going to put my money in this economy, I need to know maybe within 3 months that my case will be resolved?
I think that would be a good way to go, that you give a time frame, because some of the disputes that come before courts, especially commercial disputes, are perishable. That if you don't determine them within the particular time, then even if it's a victory, it will be Pyrrhic.
Okay. I liked one of your statements in the beginning when you said that you are not here merely to make a living. You are here to make a difference or to enrich the world. You get the position as chairperson of the commission. One thing that you first do to ensure that you enrich the commission, going by this philosophy, one thing that you do to make sure that we move away from our comfort zone.
I would actually get the commission resourced to be able to carry out more training.
More training. Very good. Let me go now to the financial matters. You talked about underfunding of the commission. You are the chairperson of the commission. You talked about the judiciary fund. The fund might be established. Having money in that fund is another thing altogether. So what would you do? What kind of measures would you put in place? You are aware about some funds that we have in this country, like the CDF. It's allocated 2.5% of our national revenue. So what would you do to ensure that judiciary gets a certain percentage directly from the revenue, 3% or 5%?
I think if we even moved to 1%, we would have made progress. And that, again, is an issue of engagement because, like I said, we all live in one country. The cake is one, and we are sharing. So it is using persuasion to get more allocation.
Professor, I want us to break down what you are calling engagement.
Yeah.
Break down that engagement to real issues. You are the Chief Justice, you are the chairperson of the commission. You need let's say 1% or 2%, that you are sure that at the end of every financial year, you have 2% of the national revenue. Break down your engagement to see how you get that money.
I think the first thing I would, when you engage the divisions to come up with their budgets, before they are submitted, I would actually ask the departments, divisions to actually put out what is it that we are doing, how does it answer to the general problems in the country. Because if you just say 2%, then the question is how does that...
That's now more internal. I want you now to move to the external.
Yeah, I would actually also, when the envelope is identified for the judiciary, again, I would ask that a part of that money is put in the judiciary fund. And, you know, I'd be open to negotiating that, recurrent expenditure could actually be out there, but can we have something in the judiciary fund so that the judiciary is able to execute its functions?
Very good. You are the chairperson. You are the head of the arm of government. So whom are you engaging?
I am engaging the executive and the legislature.
let's look at the legislature. It's quite wide, specific, the legislature.
The committee that there is a JLAC.
JLAC means what?
The judicial, the law, it is the committee in parliament that deals with law.
What else? Any other committee?
I'd also engage the Public Accounts Committee.
No, Public Accounts Committee comes much after, I suppose, Mortem Committee.
So I would have to find out who yeah.
Let's look at public-private partnership. I've seen that you have a lot in terms of your networking. How would the judiciary benefit from public-private partnership if you get this position as Chief Justice, the chair of the commission?
The judiciary would benefit from, I raise a lot of funds, and I have raised a lot of funds for my institution over the years. Even right now, I'm in the middle of negotiating a grant from the Norwegians. So I would see where that is applicable. You know, getting money from outside for the judiciary, you have also to be careful that it doesn't interfere with the independence of the judiciary. But beyond money, I also have a very high-value network of institutions. As a global scholar, I have links with centers around the world who, for instance, if it is training that people need, you could talk to them about it. I'll raise one that we used the other day between Strathmore University of Nairobi. We all knew a particular scholar, Deborah Road. Deborah Road was a scholar that worked on legal ethics. And when she died, we held a colloquium in her honor virtually, and we were able to work with the Stanford Center for Legal Ethics.
Okay. Earlier on, you said that if you get this position as the chairperson of the commission, you'll be able to oversee the expenditure. Those were your specific ones. I want to see that relationship between you as the chairperson of the commission and the accounting officer of the judiciary and other departments in terms of expenditure.
I think that because the Chief Justice is the head of the institution, and so the buck stops there. So what is done by the accounting officer is going to affect if it's not done well, it's actually going to affect the Chief Justice's performance. So there needs to be ways of reporting, different ways of reporting. I think there are certain things that as lawyers, and I'm using again my experience as dean, that we are not very good at, and especially the finances. I think it is very important to have in the Office of the Chief Justice a way so as to be able to help the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary a function to help with the finances, to help with procurement, because those could actually become the Achilles heel.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Public Financial Management Act?
Yes, to some extent.
Okay. Now let's move on to something else, human resource. The Honorable Attorney General did ask you about your engagement within judiciary, and you talked about judges, magistrates. 85% of the staff are non-legal, the researchers, the other accountants, the financial matters. How will you be able to engage them to ensure that they have or they do maximum work in terms of productivity and efficiency as a chairperson of the commission?
I think, again, using the mechanisms that are there in terms of holding them accountable, but using carrots and sticks so that you encourage people to do well. You could actually, and this can apply across the judiciary, you can have a way of showing who are the staff that are performing very well, so that those that are not performing well want to put up their socks, and if they are not performing well, then you could actually also use disciplinary mechanisms.
there has been this clamor that they would like to have somebody to represent them in the commission. I've heard it myself. So in your view, as a chairperson of the commission, the Chief Justice, what would be your take on that matter of representation?
I would have two answers. One, I would have the answer from the Constitution being represented, and given that different other groups are represented, then they have they can actually argue for representation. On the other hand, I really don't understand enough about the inner workings of JSC to say that this is the way to go. But my thinking is that some of those officers would be unionizable. If that is the situation, then they have another way of...
Okay.
Huh?
Okay. Well, Professor, I have one more question about communication, both internal and external. Communication strategy. Earlier on, you talked about the issue of the 41 judges, the position we know about it. If you get this position as Chief Justice and chairperson of the commission, what will be a communication strategy to ensure that some of these things are actually arrived or arrested before they go very far in terms of communication?
I think it is working with people. I mean, I wouldn't take a decision as the Chief Justice alone. It is a collaborative way of who are we engaging and informing people the different steps that have been taken, because many times lack of information is what makes people think that nothing is being done.
Okay. The other question is about diversity. This, if you look at Article 232 of the Constitution, public service talks about diversity. You are the chairperson of the commission. How would you address and ensure and realize that the diversity within the commission, but in terms of the officers, in terms of the staff, is realized? What measures did you put in place?
I think it would be good to, when, for instance, you advertise or you are interviewing for positions, that you take, you keep continuously taking stock of where are the people from. And of course, always bearing in mind competence, but ensuring that you have the interest of having as diverse a workforce as possible.
Okay. I also see from your report here that you have done some work for devolution. I think you had a conference, I think in Kirinyaga and also in Meru. Judiciary, Chief Justice, and you have almost 200 stations out there in the counties. How would you relate with the county government in terms of making sure that there is access of justice to Kenyans? Maximize on devolution.
I think that it is important for the judiciary to have a framework for collaborating with the counties, because even when we talk about access to justice and you want physical space, you can get that from counties. You can actually, and when you have facilities within counties working together, helps the judiciary run better.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor too.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Gishohe. Professor, now we are going to have Commissioner Koskei, who will ask you questions related to your global experience and also community service and other issues that he wishes to put to you, Professor. Commissioner Koskei.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Professor. Mine will be very short. I want us to focus more on your CV. And in paragraph 2, you said you are a tech savvy, meaning to me you are very good in computers, deep in computers. Tech savvy means that you are very good in computers, and that is one of the attributes we are looking for, as you are aware that judiciary is still at the crossroads of being manual and being, techno-savvy, as you have stated. Now tell me, what technological platforms are you familiar with which can be, brought introduced into judiciary and used to ensure that access to justice is enhanced? And at the same time, what is the limitation of ICT in courts?
So I will not talk about specific technical, because I am only a lawyer. So I can say that I use technology to do many things. But I think what we need to do is to look at platforms that enable us to digitize, to move from the very low level of that we are scanning and putting the documents up there. So what we have is a place where we are storing material, to move to a place where actually technology permeates all the activities we do. So if it is human resources, to have a very good human resource information management system. If it is procurement, to have a very efficient and electronic procurement management information system, and also to have in the judiciary people being able to get, I think it is very antiquated that we still write with our long hands. So we need to digitize that part of taking records. And I think this is, if you look at the way in which data has become important, the judiciary uses a lot of data. So just finding ways of capturing data, storing it, of course also minded of the integrity of that data.
I really want to, you've talked about all other support services systems. I want to understand whether you would know or you can suggest any system that can do the core business of judiciary, that is court processes and all that. Do you have any suggestion? Have you come across any? Have you interrogated any that can be of help to judiciary?
I have not interrogated any, but I think what we would need to do is to get bespoke, we get a custom-made system for the judiciary that links all these functions. And in this country, I don't think you have a shortage of people who can develop such a platform.
You are proposing that we can get a homegrown solution to it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My second question comes still from your CV. I went through your CV and I realized that you've interacted a lot with public service management. You've been the chair of various parastatals. You even be in some instances you have been appointed as a team leader of modernization of Parklands campus. You've been a committee member of restructuring the legal office. You've been also a member of the task force that was restructuring University of Nairobi in 2005. Borrowing from your experience, I imagine that before you came for this interview, you must have slightly studied the situation as it is in judiciary, and you must be having proposals of how areas that you can quickly improve in terms of, management, in terms of how things are being done. So borrowing from your experience, what are these experiences that you have that you can quickly come and, help judiciary in transforming it, in structuring specifically, in issues of, I've even seen again, issues of, you've been a tender committee member. I want to understand the experiences that you have that can help us, to also improve the delivery of service in judiciary.
I think one of the things that I have thought about is a question you raised earlier about digitization and the importance of moving from manual systems. And this is across board. The other area is, I think, in terms of questions that were being raised about tracking jurisprudence, being able to capture and being able to have analysis that is presented and people can actually be able to know this decision has been made, this is the ratio decidendi. But I think procurement, procurement is the Achilles heel of many institutions. And that, again, is a place where we need to look at how is it that we can make procurement digitized. Actually, working at the University of Nairobi as the head of department, I have to these things, and I do it online. We used to do it manually, but with COVID, everything is online, and that really hastens things because it has approval from X has been given, you're waiting for approval from Y.
Thank you. And in your CV still, you say that you are somebody who believes in carrying others along, and that your network is your net worth. Can you explain? What do you mean?
I'm actually a mentor coach, and many of the people I work with them with a view to really mentoring them and coaching them. Having taught about 6,000 students, I've taught 6,000 lawyers around the world. I have supervised 300 bachelors, 100 masters, and 14 PhD. These people are people that are my network. It's actually, that network is a lot more valuable than any silver or gold.
Thank you. As a CJ, and I'm following from where Commissioner Gishori left. As a CJ, you are diplomat number one when it comes to the judiciary and judicial matters in the country. You are also a fundraiser number one when it comes to judiciary in as far as creating or using your existing networks to finance operations, to help in training. What plans do you have in as far as trying to position judiciary in the world in terms of its image, in terms of the network that can eventually, bring in resources that will enhance training for our judicial officers, judicial staff, and also bring in money or support in areas of jurisprudence and also even in facilities that can be used. Could you briefly tell us and even give us examples of institutions that you can easily, talk to, and you can quickly, say in 6 months, 1 year, you can have a discussion and perhaps we can see some help from them?
To say that I would be able to say in 6 months we can get resources from Institution X would be not telling the truth. But what I think I can do, I have a huge network. I mean, I went to schools around the world, and many people are in judiciaries. And, you know, there are certain institutions, when you attend them, they take you very seriously as an alum. And when you want to link, many judges, for instance, would be from those institutions. So I would get into a space of looking at what is it that we can do. But even the work we did with the South African Judicial Education Institute, bringing together the judiciary training institutes, and they are funded by UNEP. And for UNEP, because they want to promote the environmental rule of law. That is a space that we can look at in terms of greater partnership. That's for environment, but I'm sure there are many other bodies.
Thank you, Prof. My next question is on corruption. One of the commissioners, and I think the AG, say that there is a perception by Wanjiku that judiciary is corrupt. We have also other stakeholders and institutions of government that they are saying that judiciary is the weakest link, while others argue and say judiciary cannot be any link, because when you look at weakest link theory, it says that you have to be in the sequence, so that whatever happens to you depends on whatever the other one happens. So they say judiciary is nowhere. They always come as an arbiter between the accused and the accuser. So why should it be the weakest link? Where is it in the sequence? Can you expound on that, and whether you also believe that judiciary is the weakest link in corruption, or it is not even in the sequence of corruption and only comes in as just a decision maker when it comes to either convicting or not? What is your position when it comes to corruption and the way the perception has been going on in this country?
I think that question touches on the question of judicial independence, and also the point I had made to the Honorable, the Attorney General, the issue of interdependence. So whereas within the decisions you make, the judiciary makes, there is independence and insulation from pushes by people from the outside, when you talk about accountability and why should Kenyans invest in a judiciary, I think that is when the issue of interdependence comes in. Because if corruption is so rampant in this country, and the judiciary is able to handle it and is not handling it because they say we have to, there are handicaps, we should try and deal with those handicaps so that it is also effective in dealing with this vice.
Thank you. I think now I'll go to seek clarifications on answers that you gave to my fellow commissioners on specific questions. One is the issue of taking unpaid leave from University of Nairobi, going to Strathmore University to create a law school, which ended up being a competitor, or you perhaps knew that it will be a competitor to your employer. What do you think? Don't you think it was unethical? Don't you think it was not good to do that? Because if it was a business, you would have been fired on the spot. If a business A, which competes with business B, realize that you are working, you have taken leave here to work on a system or a product that will eventually come to compete. What do you think? What is your position? And what do you believe in that?
My firm belief is that we need a good legal education in this country. And when I went to Strathmore, I was not motivated by how much money I would be paid. Actually, I had even thought of starting my own law school. I consider myself also a person who thinks out of the box. And when I left Nairobi, actually, I didn't have a job at Strathmore. I took unpaid leave because I needed time out. I had been a chair of department for 6 years. I had also, I had been on sabbatical that had been extremely busy at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. So I thought it's good for me to step back. But I had this idea that the law school I am seeing is not the law school of the future. So it's actually my students from Strathmore who called me and linked me to their vice chancellor and asked, would you consider? And I considered. And I am happy that it turned out the way it did. When I came back to Nairobi, the things that I had learned in starting a law school, for instance, because public university law schools did not require accreditation, we didn't have experience. So I had gotten that experience from Strathmore.
Was your employer happy that you went to establish a law school? Or were they happy when they heard that you are busy establishing a competition? I don't know. I don't know in the educational circles whether competition is as what I'm describing here. Because to me, if it was a business, you would be conflicted. Were they happy? Did they know in advance that you are going to establish a school, or what were the circumstances surrounding you are leaving to Strathmore?
I did not tell them that I was going to establish a school, but you know, my employer was happy because it was whilst I was at Strathmore. You know, the law school at Nairobi had only graduated one PhD from 1950 to the year 2010.
Yes.
And it was whilst at Strathmore that I supervised and I completed the supervision of the two next one, which began a culture of supervision. So my employer at no point saw me as really stabbing the institution in the back.
Thank you. My next clarification is on your answer to Commissioner Warsame on 2/3 gender rule. And I heard the argument, and I only want one straight answer. If you were in Maraga's position, would you have transmitted advisory to the president to dissolve parliament? Yes or no? If you were in his position, in as far as 2/3 gender rule.
You know, that is a conjecture because I don't know the thoughts that went through the Chief Justice Emeritus. But I think I would have consulted a little bit, because you see, it is also not good to give orders in futility. So, but you know, as a person who believes in equality, I would push for equality. I am not sure that what I'd have given is the advisory, because I haven't thought about it, and I would need to give it a little more thought.
Thank you. My other clarification is the answer to Commissioner Majanja on the issue of ombuds and the constitutional amendment that is going on in the country. And when I looked at your CV, you clearly stated that you were appointed one time in 2006 as a member of eminent persons to look at the constitution process that it's told. So I was wondering why you did not also put this and to say currently serving as an advisor or running a consultancy with Parliament on the issue of Building Bridges Initiative Amendment Bill. So that is a question that I'm wondering, why is it not in your CV? Secondly, as a layman, I'm not a lawyer, I want to understand and you may compare and contrast popular initiative when it comes to constitutional amendment and parliamentary initiative when it comes to the constitutional amendment. I want you to contrast and compare.
Why is it not on my CV? By the time I submitted my CV, I was not engaged.
Okay.
So I have been engaged. Actually, I don't even have a contract. So the short answer is, it was not there. The second question that you ask about popular initiative and parliamentary initiative, I'd refer you to Articles 256 and 257 of the Constitution. The one deals with how one is a popular initiative, which comes from the people, and the other one parliamentary initiative, which comes from Parliament. I would like not to talk a lot more about that, because that is a matter before court.
Okay, finally, my final clarification, and it is whether it's all one statement, is still a clarification on Majanja's question on boots. Would you, as CJ coming in, which route will you take? Is it to look at the ombuds the way it operates now and do amendments within the framework of its operating now, or you believe that the other BBI way is the best? Which one will you do if you walk in today as a CJ?
Let me say that, Commissioner, for me, I want an accountability mechanism that works. So if the one in the judiciary is working, and I have no reason to say it is not working, then I would go with it. But you see, we have a process that is ongoing. And should that process see the light of day, then there are going to be implications. So in essence, it is to look at how within the institution can we ensure accountability.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Commissioner Koskei. Prof, just one clarification from me. You said earlier that in the case of that difficult case where you had problem with students, and you said that when you went to Senate, you said it is either the students are produced or you are not the dean. So looking back, Prof, was that the best way to handle it then, or would you have used maybe a bit of emotional intelligence to get what you want? That means the students disciplined without having to kind of look like you are threatening to quit. Because I'm asking this, Professor, because CJ job is very stressful, the way, from my short experience in the judiciary, and we don't want you to also threaten to quit when things become tough. Thank you.
And I would also say that I was young, and I was probably at a point where I was faced with, it was actually a very difficult issue for the campus. And if the same issue arose now, you mature with age, and maybe now I would make a different decision.
Noted, Prof. Commissioner Orada, you have the final questions, clarifications.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm back again, Professor. In this exercise, as we go about determining who the best candidate would be to nominate for the office of Chief Justice, we also do some background check on the candidates, and we receive information from people of all walks of life and in different capacities. The information we have received concerning you have raised concerns with us because they touch on your quality as a team player and team leader, and they also touch on your integrity. We've received information concerning Professor Migai, who I believe you must know. And the information we received is that he developed a concept note on the subject of searching for balance, reflections on Kenya's presidential elections in 2013. And you used this concept note to secure funding from Ford Foundation, but you did not acknowledge his contribution. You made yourself the leader of the project and did not acknowledge his contribution. So this is our concern, because as a team leader and a team player, you said yourself that you carry everyone along. It is important that you acknowledge the contribution of your team, even as you lead them. So what would you say concerning that particular complaint?
I have given my explanations on this. I submitted a response. I'd like to say that this concept was developed. Actually, it is the judiciary that called me as dean to work on a concept to discuss that very difficult Raila 1. And we were even working with a civil society person, and I called a number of people into my office. And Professor Migai put together the concept. The way it is in universities is when you develop a concept, it was submitted to Ford Foundation as a concept of the School of Law, University of Nairobi. The School of Law, University of Nairobi has had the Vice Chancellor, who is the CEO, Professor Magoha, and he was noted there. I was noted as the person responsible for the activities, because if they didn't happen, then who would they go to? And there was the person in charge of the finances. I did involve Professor Migai, and there was going to be an output to that work, which was going to be a book co-edited by myself and him. But because his name was not on the concept, he developed, he didn't want to work on it. And we gave the money back for the book. But the conference was held, people attended, and discussions were held.
Commissioner, as a follow-up question.
Yes.
Sorry, I just want to ask a follow-up question, Prof, because, but do you agree then, Professor, is he Professor Migai had a point? Because that concept, if, for example, a paper is written out of that concept, then his name would have missed, and yet you have acknowledged he did the concept. So looking back, do you think he should have been, it should have been the VC as a CEO, yourself, and Professor Migai, and also whoever the finance person was? Don't you think it was an omission, and are you acknowledging that? Because I would like to know whether you are acknowledging that there was maybe an oversight.
I was using the Ford Foundation template for converting. I mean, and you know, the concept was just what is the idea? What are the activities? What are the things that will be done? So the concept was a side paper, but this was now a grant request using the template provided by the Ford Foundation.
Okay, the other concern, the other complaint, if I can call it that we have also received, still raises issues concerning your diligence and also your integrity. We have information that serving as a member of the committee of the LSK on nomination for candidates to the Judicial Service Commission, specifically the male candidate, you colluded and engaged in underhand activities in a bid to defeat or to frustrate the bid by one of the membership to vie for this position. What would you say about that? Maybe I can also raise, maybe inform you about yet another complaint, also concerning your activities in the LSK, which also touch on your integrity and diligence. The second limb of that complaint is that as a member of the committee on the senior council, you would fail to attend meetings where critical decisions were made. And on an occasion, some recommendations were made on the people nominated for senior council. You did not attend the meeting, but still appended your signature to the recommendations. This, of course, brings questions about your integrity and your diligence. Could you comment on that, please?
Let me start with the male member of the JSC. I actually volunteered from the senior council bar to join the team from LSK and IEBC working on that. I really had no dog in that fight. I went to do my work. And you know, it has surprised me to hear that I colluded because I had no interest in any candidate. And in fact, when it was decided that the rules we were using, the society no longer wanted to abide by them and they went to their membership and changed, I was okay with that because it was really, my work was actually to help the society. And if they had found other ways of doing the work, I let it go. And I have actually written extensively about that. This other issue of the LSK Senior Council Committee, we have to distinguish two things here. The Senior Council Committee that I had been nominated to by the senior bar under rules in the Advocates Act. And I served on that diligently. And I've actually seen that the statement that I was not at the meetings is not true. That is not true. But more fundamentally, and which I think is why the complaint came, when the president of the Law Society was appointed, he decided that he wanted to meet the senior council, and he wrote to all of us. He fixed the day for the meeting, but I was not able to attend that meeting. And then later, I saw circulating on LSK membership that I had been elected into the Senior Council Committee of the LSK. You know, because many of these people are my students. I do not want to embarrass by saying how did I get here, because I could have become combative. Also knowing that there were very frosty relations between LSK and the senior bar that I had represented in the Senior Council Committee. When no explanation was put on how was I elected without being asked, for instance. And I tried to engage, but then I found that the quarrels were too much and I resigned from the LSK committee. And that I don't think is something one can hold against one. You can say you won't work in a committee because first of all you are put without your consent.
Maybe if I can bring it closer home, especially on the second issue that was raised, there was a meeting on the 11th of May, I believe, just a minute. Sorry, a meeting on the 26th of August in which recommendations were made for nominations to the senior council. Am I correct?
You know, the process of picking senior council is not one meeting. We had meetings running where you would say that now, actually, because they are representatives from the Judiciary, the Office of the Attorney General, the lawyers, and what happened was that we would meet, and each meeting moved the issue further. So there is not one day when a meeting was held when they said, now this is it, because we had all, first of all, I was attending as one of 3 senior council. So as one of 3 senior council, I had given my views, but it is not true that I was not at the meeting when the decisions were made.
Thank you. Okay, Professor, could you tell us why we require applicants to public office, and even public servants for that matter, to fill wealth declaration forms?
So that I mean, it's an integrity question.
Thank you. And you're aware that under the Judicial Service Code of Conduct, the code rather, goes beyond just the conduct of the officer who serves in the judiciary, and in some instances goes and covers even their family members.
Yes.
You're aware about that?
Yeah.
Now, in the form that you are required to fill, Form 2B, paragraph 8, you are required to file a statement, a separate statement for your spouse. Did you comply with that?
I didn't.
Why is that?
I had actually complied with it in the one I did for PSC.
You did not?
This game has been in our blood for a passion. New coach. The focus, the teamwork, fitness. Make your deal. I'll rip all 4 corners. If I hit them all, we all run. I gotta see this. The state championship, the crooked arrows against powerful commentary battle. Don't you let up. Not for 1 second. This is the day David slays Goliath. This game's not about that. This game's about us. Today, you turn the cross right. Hii ni KBC Radio